Chapter 177. The way a fatuous ruler acts, however. Just like before, Si Han didn't hide anything from her. Such confidential and even top-secret things. His bedroom, his most important study, and his darkroom were all brazenly spread out in front of her. But she could understand why. Would anybody be guarded against their own pet cat, dog, or bird? Obviously not. Qin Ruo, she glanced at Yuan, was silent for a moment and in the end, didn't say anything at all. Then she started reporting the details to Si Han. In the quiet study, there was only the clear voice of Qin Ruo she and a few words from Si Han occasionally. Yuan left those two alone and started doing her homework. With her math homework piled up like a mountain, she didn't have time to think about anything else. Suddenly, a loud dong interrupted the silence. Qin Ruo she and Si Han raised their heads and looked towards Yuan. They saw that Yuan's head was on the table, with a worksheet sandwiched in between. She stared at that math worksheet with red and teary eyes, looking as if the paper had murdered her dad. After a moment of strange silence, Si Han pinched his brows and indicated for Qin Ruo she to stop. He stood up and walked towards Yuan. Si Han walked to her side. Which question? Yuan was stunned as she forced her head up. Huh? Which question do you need help with? Si Han repeated and at the same time, stretched his fingers out and stroked her forehead with a frown. Yuan tilted her head and replied instinctively, question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4, question 5, question 6, Si Han. Si Han took out the first aid kit from the cupboard, applied some medicine on her red and swollen forehead, then started explaining the questions to her. Upon seeing Si Han helping her with her homework, Yuan was dazed and somewhat surprised, but was captivated by Si Han's explanation very quickly. After 10 minutes, Yuan looked at Si Han with dazzling eyes, as if he had grown a pair of little white wings on his back. She never expected that after he explained those inexplicable formulas and questions that they'd become surprisingly easy. Very soon, half an hour passed. Qin Ruo she, who was sitting on the sofa waiting in silence, finally spoke up, "Han." Si Han lifted his gaze from the paper and looked at Qin Ruo she. "You can head back first?" Qin Ruo she, who'd kept her composure all this while, had an uneasiness that appeared beneath her eyes after she heard him. "But the issue with Shin City, we have to. I know what to do." Qin Ruo she's expression turned gloomy at being interrupted. After a few seconds, she finally stood up. "Got it?" Qin Ruo she left after she packed up her documents. Watching Qin Ruo she leave, Yuan was quite surprised herself. What Qin Ruo she said just now must have been very important. In fact, everything handled by Qin Ruo she was important. But Si Han actually pushed this issue back just to help her with her homework? This was truly the way a fatuous ruler acts. When he noticed that she was distracted, Si Han rapped his fist on the table. "Do you understand?" No. Can you explain it again, please?" Yuan quickly focused all her attention. "Forget it. Who cares what Si Han thinks? I'm still stressed over math. With such a rare opportunity today, I have to grab hold of it." Chapter 178. His master couldn't be horny, could he? Downstairs, Lu Ying crossed his arms and leaned against the door to the courtyard. He was still mad, but after he heard familiar footsteps behind him, he turned around, surprised. "Ms. Ruoshi, weren't you speaking to the master? You're already done?" Qin Ruoshi's expression was hard to decipher, and she shook her head. "Not yet. Yihan's busy, so he asked me to head back first." "The master's busy? Did something happen?" Lu Ying probed anxiously. If it was more important than the issue at Shin City, then it must be something big. Qin Ruoshi hurriedly replied, "No, don't worry. Then what's the master busy with? We exterminated all the remaining forces in Shan City. Everything's a mess and we're all awaiting his instructions." Seeing that Qin Ruoshi was hesitant in replying, Lu Ying could guess what happened and he bellowed furiously, "Was it that vixen again? Ms. Ruoshi, you understand now? The master pushed aside such an important thing just for her." Also, in the car today, while the master was having a video conference, this woman shamelessly seduced him right in front of Sui and me. Most importantly, The master didn't scold her and even stopped the meeting for her. The image of Si Han tutoring that woman appeared in her head, and a darkness flashed across Qin Ruoshi's eyes. Yi Han's a guy and this Ms. Ye's young and beautiful. It's normal for him to be captivated by her. Anyway, it doesn't matter now. Nobody's able to influence him when it comes to the big issues. Ms. Ruoshi, the master's already been influenced, all right? At a time like this, you're still speaking up for him? Lu Ying was furious. Even if Qin Ruoshi's words make sense, they only apply to normal men. How could master be as horny as those ordinary people? This is impossible. Qin Ruoshi looked at the teenager next to her helplessly. You get aggravated too easily. You can't be like that from now on. You should be wary that she might come between you and Si Han. For now, don't be so bothered by her. Lu Ying was indignant. I can't take it much longer. Other than a pretty face, that woman's useless, extremely stupid, and doesn't even have the strength to handle a chicken. If this keeps up, even if she doesn't cause any trouble, she'll drag the master down sooner or later. She's not comparable to you at all, Ms. Ruoshi. Qin Ruoshi furrowed her brows and warned him sternly, Lu Ying, don't say these things in the future. She's one of Yi Han's people after all. Lu Ying's face darkened. She's not fit to be one of the master's people. This kind of person isn't even qualified to be on par with you. Upstairs, after Yi Wanwan finally grasped Si Han's methods, it was as if she found a treasure cove. Unknowingly, she had listened to Si Han's explanations for an entire night. Then, Jiang Yinran called. It's nearly midnight. Jiang Yinran should be asleep by now. Why would she call at this hour? Yi Wanwan anxiously answered the call. Jiang Yinran's cries came through the receiver. Yi Wanwan's face changed. Yinran? Are you crying? What happened? Wanwan, what should I do? I suddenly realized. I'm so useless. Why after seeing what kind of person he is? I'm still suffering. It's too hard to bear. Jiang Yinran sobbed intermittently, and she sounded drunk as well. Yi Wanwan heaved a sigh of relief. You've been drinking? She thought that scumbag song had caused trouble again. Chapter 179. Become so strong that she could be his rival. Yup, I'm already 18. I'm allowed to drink. Jiang Yinran replied meekly, like she was afraid that Yi Wanwan would scold her. Where are you right now? Yi Wanwan asked, concerned. By the lake. The little lake in school? Yup. Yi Wanwan's head started to hurt. You're so tipsy now, you might fall into the lake by accident. Hurry and head back to the dorms. What an honest kid. I just casually warned her to help her calm down, but she's actually listening to me. But I'm lost. Yi Wanwan. Oh, Big Missy, how could you get lost in your own school? Forget it. Find somewhere and stay there. I'll get someone to fetch you. Yi Wanwan warned Jiang Yinran repeatedly, then gave Chu Feng a call, asking him to go to the little lake to look for Jiang Yinran before hanging up. After the call, Yi Wanwan turned to Si Han and said, That was Yinran, the new roommate I told you about before. She got drunk in school and now can't find her way back to the dorms, so I asked a boy from the neighboring school to find her. That guy has a crush on Jiang Yinran. He seems quite nice. The Si Han in her past life was extremely controlling, almost to the point where it was perverted. He investigated everybody around her. Even if his intention was to keep her safe, his behavior was still revolting to her. In her past life, the only way she tried to resist was to try to escape, but this time, she thought that if she became strong enough to protect herself and even become Si Han's rival, maybe she could regain her freedom that way. Although the latter was still a fantasy for her at the moment. Yi Wanwan continued, It's so late already. I've got to go back. Though tomorrow's a weekend, our class has a rehearsal tomorrow morning, so I have to rush back. I'm also worried about Yin Ran being alone in the dorm. You should hurry and talk business with Ms. Ruoshi. Even though Si Han looked indifferent as usual and didn't say a word in response, Yi Wanwan could sense that he was unhappy. She really felt that Si Han's thoughts were harder to decipher than a woman's. Before, when she was messing around and making a scene over to provoke Lu Ying on purpose, he wasn't mad at all. But now when she's being sensible and caring for her friend, he's upset? Where's the logic? Fortunately, Si Han relented in the end and got Su Yi to send her back. As it was pretty late, the old madam was already asleep, so Yuanwan didn't want to disturb her and only informed the old housekeeper of her departure. In the living room, Qin she was up waiting and hadn't gone to bed. When she saw Yuanwan coming downstairs to say goodbye, she was surprised. "Ms. Yi, you're leaving? It's so late. Why don't you stay over and sleep here?" Lu Ying, who was off to the side, scoffed. How was she qualified to stay in the old house? Lu Ying hadn't finished his sentence but was forced to retreat by an icy glare shot at him. He shut his mouth in an instant. That glare seemed like nothing, but it was as if it brought an immense power, like a huge, heavy mountain had suddenly pressed down on his chest. Lu Ying hung his head low, and his back broke out in a cold sweat. But after the scare, he became even more furious. After Yuanwan and Sui left, Si Han turned to the teenager. "Lu Ying, come over." Lu Ying clenched his fists. "Yes?" Qin she turned to the both of them, worried. "Yihan, don't blame Lu Ying. He didn't mean it. You know how he's like." "Ms. Ruoshi, you don't have to speak up for me." Lu Ying followed Si Han into the study without a word. Chapter 180. Unparalleled. The study was dead silent. Si Han sat on the wide and simple antique chair and looked at the teenager standing upright in the middle of the living room. Lu Ying's face was filled with stubbornness and discontentment, like a wild and unruly wolf cub. There was only one way to tame a person like him, and that was to be stronger than him. Otherwise, he'd never submit to you to his death. After some time, Si Han finally spoke. "You have something to say about my taste in women?" Lu Ying's eyes widened the moment he heard that question. "Of course I do." "I wouldn't dare," he mumbled. "You wouldn't dare?" Si Han's low voice brought a great sense of oppression. The teenager gritted his teeth. After holding back for so long, he couldn't take it any longer. "Actually, I do have an opinion. Master, I don't understand why you choose a woman like Yuanwan. Then in your mind, what kind of woman do you think I should choose?" Si Han asked in reply. Lu Ying answered without hesitation. "Of course someone who's beautiful both inside and out, and knowledgeable and skilled in martial arts. Only then would she be compatible with you. How could you be with a useless bum who needs your protection all the time and could bring you down any time? I don't believe you're just one of those worldly men who only care about appearances." Being at his master's side for so long, he knew clearly how harsh his master's standards were. Everybody believed he didn't want to be close to women, but it was because ordinary women were unattractive to him, and they were essentially from different planets. Furthermore, this person had to become his life partner. Beautiful both inside and out, knowledgeable and skilled in martial arts. Si Han paused and looked at the teenager. "You mean I should marry you and Sui?" "Lu Ying." The moment Si Han said that, Lu Ying's brain crashed instantly and he was dumbfounded. Following that, his ears and neck were red as he contested. How's that possible?" "What I meant was, although Sui was in charge of the internal matters while he was in charge of the external ones, and he was a good fighter whereas Sui was very knowledgeable, and the two of them together did fit his criteria, he didn't mean it that way. Master's obviously taking it out of context. Who told you that my partner needs to have just these two criteria?" Si Han asked softly. His icy cold gaze appeared as if he despised every living creature in the world. Immediately, Lu Ying sought his opinion earnestly. Then, "Master, what do you think she should be like?" He had never heard his own master mention his criteria for a spouse, so naturally, he was very eager to find out. Lu Ying held his breath and fixed his eyes on Si Han, awaiting his reply. After a long time, his low and hoarse voice filled the quiet air, unparalleled. Lu Ying, he knew how high his master's standards were, but never expected them to be that high. What does unparalleled even mean? Looks, brains, and skills aren't enough? He needs someone to be extraordinary and omnipotent? After the initial shock, he was still speechless. "Master, are you serious? That dumb wretch, who can't even kill a chicken and hasn't graduated from high school, is considered unparalleled? Even Immerse, she can't match the meaning of this one word." The moment Sui returned from sending Yuanwan home, he saw a mushroom cloud forming on Lu Ying's head as he squatted by the foot of the wall. He sighed helplessly and walked over. "Got scolded, didn't you? Sui, do you know the master's criteria for his spouse?" Lu Ying asked Sui. Sui paused. I'm not sure, but it should be something quite perverted, right? Luing. Master told me just now. He said one word. Which word was it? Sui was intrigued. Unparalleled. Luing mouthed each syllable in exaggeration. Sui, how could that stupid and weak girl bear the meaning of this word? Luing exploded again. Sui wiped his sweat awkwardly, probably because beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Chapter 181. Come at me 100 more times. By the little lake at school. After Chu Feng hadn't returned her call for a while, Yuanwan decided to go down to the lake herself. As she approached the lake, she heard a dispute in the vicinity. Yinran, I've learnt from my mistakes. I swear I'll treat you nicely from now on, and we can get married after we graduate. Get lost. I've said it before. Don't show your face in front of me. Gross. Yinran, swear with your heart and tell me that you weren't with this bastard to provoke me? Do you dare to say that you don't like me even a bit? Yinran, stop lying to yourself. Why are you with a person you don't like just for revenge? You don't like him at all. The person you like is me. Song Ziheng kept pestering Jiang Yinran while she was drunk and exhausted, and Chu Feng next to her had his fists clenched as he stared at Song Ziheng. But because he was in no position to speak at present, he didn't refute at all. Seeing that Chu Feng didn't fight back, Song Ziheng happily added, I've known Yin Ran from the moment we were born. She's like me for 18 years. Who do you think you are? You think Yin Ran would fall for a gigolo like you? Stop dreaming. Yuanwan watched these three people from afar and let out a soft sigh. Jiang Yin Ran was still too soft-hearted and thin-skinned, unlike Song Ziheng, who was still shamelessly insisting that Jiang Yin Ran's value for friendship were in fact residual feelings for him. And with Jiang Yin Ran's character, even if she had feelings towards Chu Feng, she'd never say it out loud. Yuanwan looked around and picked up a small stone. She wrapped her palm around it, then flung it hard towards Chu Feng's calves. Chu Feng stood there, battered out of his senses. Then, a sharp pain suddenly arose from his calves as he staggered in a sorry plight. Chu Feng, Jiang Yin Ran noticed and woke up instantly. She quickly rushed over to Chu Feng's side and asked, Are you all right? Yin Ran, I'm fine. Song Ziheng, you've gone too far. Jiang Yin Ran was in a fiery rage. Song Ziheng furrowed his brows. What did I do? I didn't do anything. This guy's faking it. You're still denying it. It was dark, and only the three of them were there. Also, Song Ziheng often bullied others because he was slightly more talented than they were. Who could it have been other than him? Who said I ended up with this guy just to provoke you? Who said that I still like you? Who said that I don't like him? Jiang Yin Ran suddenly pulled Chu Feng's neck, looked at his lips and kissed down half. You. Taken. A good. Look. Seeing that Jiang Yin Ran actually kissed Chu Feng right in front of him, Song Ziheng's face turned green instantly. Jiang Yin Ran. You. As for Chu Feng, he was like a steam train, almost ready to charge out from his motherland into the world. My leg hurts. So bad. Which immortal Jie want? Hit me. Come at me 100 more times, please. Yuanwan yawned and stopped watching. She retreated to her dorm without a sound. She knew that Jiang Yin Ran would never forgive Song Ziheng. But, since Ziheng now viewed her as his one and only lifesaver, he definitely wouldn't let her go. With her soft-hearted nature, if she wasn't more harsh with him, she'd be harassed for a very long time. Good thing I was here to end this once and for all. Now, she'd finally settled this issue at Jiang Yin Ran's side. That's one issue done and over with. Chapter 182. I'm waiting for you. As Yuanwan passed a small forest on her way back to the dormitory, a figure suddenly appeared out of nowhere, almost scaring her to death. Her first reaction was to touch her face. Luckily, she'd been very careful this time. Even though it was already late at night, she made sure to put on a slab of makeup like she was about to act for a horror movie in order to prevent an incident similar to the one with Xia from happening again. She was safe. When that person noticed her, it was evident that he was in a greater shock than she was. She heard the person's gasp very clearly. She took a few steps forward. Under the glow from the street lamps, Yu Wanwan managed to see the other person's face. Xixia, what's this guy doing out here in the middle of the night? After the ultimate move she'd made previously, this guy kept his distance from her, and because he was also quite busy himself, they didn't even speak much these past few days. She'd forgotten all about this bomb and pushed it to the back of her mind. Why aren't you asleep yet? Yu Wanwan casually asked. I was thinking about you, so I couldn't fall asleep. Yu Wanwan was speechless. Wanwan, the low voice of the teenager traveled to her ears. Huh, what? Yu Wanwan regained her senses. Why aren't you asleep? Were you waiting for me? He asked. His pupils reflected the moonlight seeping through the gaps of the leaves, like a demon who could trick people off the righteous path. Yu Wanwan. He stopped bothering me for only a few days. Why is he back at it again? Does he think my life is too long and boring? Yu Wanwan strongly felt that this couldn't go on anymore. She had to find a way to get rid of him once and for all. After she took a deep breath, Yu Wanwan forced herself to calm down. After that, she replied slowly, Yup, I was waiting for you. His eyes lit up instantly with a little suspicion and disbelief. Really? Yu Wanwan faked a look of honesty without a trace of deception. Of course. I knew you went to work, so I waited here especially for you. With that, Yu Wanwan looked down shyly and hooked her fingers nervously. Well, Xixia, actually, I've liked you for quite some time. Xixia was stunned. He totally didn't expect the sudden confession from her. What? TSK. Now he knows how scary it is to be confessed to? Yu Wanwan concealed the mischievousness beneath her eyes, plucked up her courage, and continued. I like you too. Yu Wanwan spoke while taking a step closer to him. I fell for you from the first time I laid eyes on you, but I never held on to any hope that I'd have any chance to be with you. I really didn't expect that I'd be so lucky to be your desk mate and even get the chance to act in the play with you. You don't even know how happy I was. Xixia became even more surprised. I thought you wouldn't part with Han unless heaven and earth collided? Yu Wanwan smiled bitterly. Of course I was lying to you. Yu Wanwan spoke and suddenly raised her head excitedly to look at Xixia, but I didn't expect that Xixia, you would actually. Are you really in love with me? Or were you just fooling with me? Xixia's constant, calm gaze finally showed some hesitation. He paused for a long time before replying, To me, you're very special, unlike the other girls. Not just because of your appearance. Yu Wanwan's eyes glistened and burned intensely. Well then, let's complete the greatest harmony of our lives tonight. What? Xixia was stunned. Yu Wanwan acted very excited. Her face was flushed, and she was extremely emotional. Taking this chance when Xixia was paralyzed on the spot, she suddenly pounced on him with all her strength. The two of them fell and rolled into the nearby bush. Wanwan, you wait. Xixia was about to get up, but was immediately pushed down by Yu Wanwan. What's wrong? Don't you like me? I like you too. I like you so much. So much. Don't you want to be with me? Xixia retreated. No. You need to calm down a little. Look at how beautiful the night is tonight. We don't have to wait for another day. How could Yu Wanwan calm down? She stretched her arms out and started to unfasten the buttons on his clothes as she puckered her lips and prepared to kiss. He watched as his collar was grabbed and sat in shock, looking at the face worse than a horror film looming before him like it was about to engulf him in the next second. Suddenly, with a great force, he broke away from her and at the same time shouted angrily, Get lost. Chapter 183. Trampled on. After the angry shouts, there was a cold and dead silence. The love-struck expression on Yu Wanwan's face subsided like the tide as she regained a cold and indifferent expression. Yu Wanwan tidied the edges of her white dress, stood up slowly, and looked coldly at the battered and exhausted teenager who had grass all over his body, his face filled with indignation and fear. Hey Xixia, are you done acting? He lifted his head angrily and glared at her in disbelief. Yu Wanwan laughed. Don't be dismayed. Going to this extent with me looking the way I do, you're already quite good. With that, Yu Wanwan paused and the smile on her face was replaced by a seriousness. I don't care what your motives were, nor do I care about what happened between you and Si Han. Just please don't drag me into it. Jie Jiawan. Don't have the energy to play games with you. You hear me? Yi Wanwan turned and left immediately. Behind her, Si Xiao was a mess. While they were struggling, he rolled in the grass and mud and lost a few buttons on his shirt. He looked like he'd just been trampled on. After Yi Wanwan left, he regained his senses after a long time. He clenched his fists and muttered a curse. The night breeze was chilly, and there was a cold glow from the moonlight overhead. He sat there in a daze. After some time, he slowly buried his head in his knees. His back trembled slightly and his fingers dug into the grass. You're not. His voice was increasingly gloomy. You're not my Jejia. A moment of silence in the dead stillness. It was as if he'd drawn out all his anger. His voice that was gloomy and full of hatred became extremely weak. My older sister would never do this to me. The next morning, Yi Wanwan was awoken by the screams of Jiang Yin Ran. All she saw was a girl sitting up in a panic, her flushed cheeks filled with distress. She seemed to have sobered up and recalled what she did last night. You're awake? Yi Wanwan yawned. Jiang Yin Ran turned to her, looking as if she was about to cry as she spoke incoherently. Wanwan. Last night. What happened to you last night? Yi Wanwan acted like she didn't know anything. Oh my God. Jiang Yin Ran held her face. Last night, I was in a bad mood, so I drank a little. After that, I gave you a call. You told me to wait there. You said you'd get someone to fetch me. That's right. What's wrong? After that, Chu Feng came over and wanted to take me back to the dorms, but Song Zihang somehow found me too and kept pestering me. He even insisted that I still had feelings for him and said I was using Chu Feng to get revenge and provoke him. He even hurt Chu Feng. Then, Jiang Yin Ran blushed even more. After that, I was so mad, and to refute what Song Zihang said, I kissed Chu Feng right in front of him. God. I'm never ever drinking again. Oh, actually, I think you should drink more. Jiang Yin Ran didn't seem to hear what Yi Wanwan mumbled as she fell apart. I'm not even sure about my feelings towards Chu Feng. How could I do something like that? He might get the wrong idea. What's worse was that I even said he would be my boyfriend from that day onwards. Aya, this is actually going better than I expected. Yi Wanwan laughed. That boy's too lucky? Huh? I'm so jealous of him. Not only does he have me as a helpful spirit, even God is on his side. Jiang Yin Ran was annoyed. Wanwan, stop joking. Hurry and think of a way out for me. What should I do now? Yi Wanwan replied without hesitation. It's very simple. Just tell him that you drank too much last night, so everything you did and said doesn't count. Jiang Yin Ran's eyes lit up. Can I really do that? Yi Wanwan nodded. Of course you can. At most, there'll be a male corpse found in Qing He's Lake one of these days. Jiang Yin Ran. PFFF. Yi Wanwan laughed. Just teasing you. If you really don't like him, then it's best that you let Chu Feng know early. Jiang Yin Ran immediately replied, I don't dislike him, but Yi Wanwan understood how she was feeling. After all, she was still a teen. It was inevitable that she'd be confused, having so many things happening all at once. Yi Wanwan thought about it, then stood up, walked to the windows and drew the curtains as she said to Jiang Yin Ran, Yin Ran, come over and look at this, then make a decision. Chapter 184. At worst, she'd get makeup remover splashed in her face. It was still early. The sky just had its first glimmer of light. The window frame was still moist with mist and dew, and the school grounds were empty. However, Jiang Yin Ran followed Yi Wanwan's gaze, looked over and saw a familiar figure below. A boy stood still below the girls' dormitory like a doorkeeper, and Jiang Yin Ran noticed that he was still wearing the same pajamas as last night. When Yi Wanwan called Chu Feng yesterday, he was already in bed, and because he rushed over, he didn't even have time to get dressed. But it was already morning now, and he was still in the same clothes. Could it be that he didn't go back and stood there for an entire night? With that thought, Jiang Yin Ran felt as if her heart had been struck by something. She turned around and ran downstairs. Yi Wanwan looked at Jiang Yin Ran's back and felt somewhat emotional, as if her little girl was maturing to womanhood. Downstairs, Chu Feng, who was in a daze, suddenly saw Jiang Yin Ran running over and was stunned. His dashing face started to turn red, and he suddenly didn't know what to do with his arms and legs. Yin. Yin Ran? You. Jiang Yin Ran wasn't sure what to say as she asked hesitantly, "You didn't sleep at all last night?" He scratched his head and didn't dare to lie. So he stood there like a child who'd misbehaved and answered honestly, I didn't dare to sleep. Why not?" Jiang Yin Ran was perplexed. He pressed his lips together and was silent for a while before replying softly, "I was afraid it was all a dream. I was afraid that once I woke up." Although Chu Feng didn't manage to say those last few words, Jiang Yin Ran still understood what he meant. After all these years of chasing after Song Zihang, she almost forgot that she was a girl, almost forgot how it felt to be treasured by someone. Even though Chu Feng was clumsy and maybe even a little foolish, he was genuine and made her feel safe. Jiang Yin Ran looked at him in silence, the darkness and confusion gradually leaving her eyes. While he stood around looking nervous and uneasy, she said to him, "You should quickly go back and rest." She then took a few steps forward, tiptoed and planted a light kiss on his cheeks as she whispered, "You're not dreaming." "Oh, I'll go back then." Chu Feng blinked over and over, then stood up and walked away obediently, step by step. He's so calm and collected. Upstairs, Yi Wanwan saw everything that happened inside at this kid's progress. But in the next second, she noticed that Chu Feng was walking awkwardly with his left limbs extending out together and then his right. Yi Wanwan giggled as she rubbed her chin and looked a little envious. It's good to be young. You can fall in love so purely. After watching the lovey-dovey scene, Yi Wanwan laid in bed and went back to sleep. When she woke up, it was time to head to the small hall for rehearsals. Jiang Yin Ran had already showered and brought breakfast back. Knowing that Yi Wanwan had to go to rehearsal, she turned to her with a worried look and reminded her, "Xixia's personal guards are insane, especially with Cheng Shui's complicated background. You better be careful." Speaking of Cheng Shui, she was pretty aggressive. Just to get closer to Xixia, she actually took over another girl's role as the evil stepmother. Yi Wanwan concentrated on eating her breakfast bun while speaking with her mouth full. "Don't worry. The worst that could happen is I'll get makeup remover splashed in my face, that's all." Jiang Yin Ran. Chapter 185. She's a beauty at the small hall in school. The costumes and props were all prepared and everybody crowded around excitedly to take a look. Wow, the clothes are all so beautiful. They're so gorgeous. It's all thanks to Cheng Shui. These costumes and props were borrowed from the professional production team with her help. When the time comes, our class performance will definitely be the most breathtaking. You're dreaming. No matter how stunning the costumes and props are, they'll never make up for Yi Wanwan's appalling face, all right? I really have nothing to say about this ugly freak. How could she be so shameless to take the role of Snow White and force Cheng Shui to act as the evil queen? So what? There'll be no harm without any comparison. Our little Shui will be the most beautiful queen in history for sure. At this moment, someone at the side raised her doubts. Hold on, even if there is some exaggeration in the theater, isn't Yi Wanwan's face a little overdone? Is it really okay for us to let her perform like that? Cheng Shui's sidekicks glanced at Yi Wanwan and started complaining. That's right, even the costumes and props won't be able to save her. We have no choice but to change the script. Huh, change the script? Change it in which way? Cheng Shui replied, "We can change the script to have Snow White's mother disguising Snow White with thick makeup from a young age in order to protect her. This way, Yi Wanwan wouldn't have to appear from beginning to end." Ha! Would this even work? Her little group of sidekicks scoffed. What else can we do? There will be so many important people at the show. We can't be the ones responsible for scaring them off. Everybody was talking about Yi Wanwan, and occasionally, someone shot a look of disgust at her. Yi Wanwan played with her costume, held her chin up high, and smiled while listening to their comments. Once they were almost done, she suddenly interrupted. Actually, I can't appear on stage without any makeup on. I look pretty good without it." The air had a strange silence the moment everyone heard what she said. A moment later, a roar of laughter erupted. Ha, what did this ugly freak just say? She actually said she looks pretty good without makeup on. Who exactly gave her the courage to say something like that? She must be joking. If she goes up on stage without any makeup, I think the audience would be scared to death. Is this a Snow White play or a midnight horror show? Yuanwan had a serious expression on. I look quite good without any makeup on. I've been making myself look like this because I'm afraid that my beauty would cause too much jealousy. Everybody's expression. Heh, we must be crazy. We're actually listening to this crazy and ugly freak talk nonsense. Yuanwan saw that nobody believed her, and she sighed helplessly. She told the truth today since she was in a good mood, but none of them actually believed her. Ugly freak. Stop with your unrealistic dreams and quickly get over here to rehearse. Also, put down that costume in your dirty hands. You're not allowed to change into it now. You can only change into it on the day of the performance. Would you be able to pay up if you dirty it now? Cheng Shui's sidekick said, with her hands on her hips, glaring at her fiercely. After they changed the script, Yuanwan was basically switched from being Snow White to Cinderella. The so-called expensive costume was actually gray and old. It was made out of some unknown animal skin, and it was ugly, stiff, and difficult to put on. Yuanwan couldn't even be bothered to change into it, and when she heard what Cheng Shui's sidekick said, she was overjoyed to toss it aside. Chapter 186. That unnerving stare. Cheng Shui was already dressed in the queen's costume. Her makeup and costume made her small face seem even more delicate and beautiful. Other than the fangirls waiting for Xixia by the side, there was also a big group of boys supporting the beauty queen, Cheng Shui. At this moment, they all crowded around her like a myriad of stars surrounding the moon, praising her and taking photos of her. Cheng Shui wasn't interested at all in these boys who were attempting to win her over. Instead, she kept looking in the direction of the entrance. When the person she'd been waiting for finally appeared, Cheng Shui's eyes lit up instantly as she lifted her skirt up and walked over. Xixia, you're here. She blushed a little and looked at him with a look of expectation. However, Xixia didn't even glance at her dress that had aroused the attention of plenty of boys. His gaze scanned over everyone and landed straight on the girl behind the crowd, Yuanwan. Cheng Shui followed Xixia's gaze and looked towards Yuanwan. She gritted her teeth in anger. What's so good about that ugly freak that she deserves such special treatment from him? Xixia, do I look good in this costume? Cheng Shui tugged at his arm and twirled, trying to get his attention, but Xixia didn't react. Cheng Shui's face stiffened. Xixia, what are you looking at? Xixia seemed very distracted, like he'd sunk deep into his own world, but in Cheng Shui's eyes, he seemed to be looking at Yuanwan in a daze. How could Cheng Shui tolerate him ogling at another woman right in front of her? She raised her voice unhappily. Xixia, Xixia. Xixia's distracted expression suddenly darkened, a chill seeping beneath his eyes. Shut up, you're being really noisy. Cheng Shui opened her eyes wide in shock. She couldn't believe that Xixia would actually raise his voice at her with this attitude. You! Cheng Shui's lips trembled as she pushed the crowd away and ran with red eyes. Little Shui. Little Shui. Cheng Shui's sidekicks glanced at Xixia, then glared at Yuanwan and hurriedly chased after Cheng Shui. In a moment, the atmosphere in the hall froze. The girls who'd been so exhilarated when they saw Xixia started retreating in fear. The hunk seems to be in a bad mood today. Even Cheng Shui got on his bad side. We'd better stay far away. This was the first time they saw this expression on Xixia, and it was terrifying. Xixia didn't care about Cheng Shui, who ran away in tears. He found a seat by the window and sat down in silence. As he leaned his chin on his hand, he continued staring at Yuanwan. As for Yuanwan, who was being stared at, she gritted her teeth and really wanted to charge over to that guy to pounce on him again. What's this little devil looking at? Is he trying to make me out to be some flower? I really didn't expect that after last night. Not only is he not stopping, he's even reached a whole new level. In the midst of the awkward atmosphere, everybody finally managed to coax Cheng Shui back to rehearsal after a very long time. Until rehearsal started, Xixia's eyes stayed on Yuanwan the whole time without even blinking. Wherever Yuanwan went, his eyes would follow like a newborn chick who wouldn't leave its mother. The way he looked at her was extremely obvious. Only those who were blind wouldn't notice, but because of Xixia's terrifying rage just now, nobody dared to make a sound. They could only criticize him in their hearts. What exactly happened to you, hunk? Were you cursed by Yuanwan? Yuanwan shouldn't act as Snow White. She should be the witch instead. Chapter 187. Implicated. Even when she's lying in the coffin, the rehearsal ended with a weird atmosphere. Aside from staring at her, Xixia didn't do anything else, so Yuanwan didn't have a good excuse to flare up at him. Yuanwan finally got to the end of rehearsal, and just as she was about to run off, Xixia fainted onto the ground without any warning, right after they rehearsed the final kissing scene. Xixia! God! Xixia has fainted. Someone get help. There were repeated screams and shouts. It was total chaos as everyone started crowding around Xixia. Yuanwan was dumbfounded and felt terribly guilty. What's up with this guy now? Yuanwan laid in the crystal coffin and glanced at Xixia through the gaps in the crowd. She saw that he was pale, curled up on the floor in pain, and his breathing became quicker. Yuanwan was stunned. It doesn't seem like he's faking it. Oh my God. What happened to Xixia? He was fine just now. Why is he like that all of a sudden? Xixia's having an asthma attack, Cheng Shui said anxiously. Xixia has asthma? Hurry, check whether he has any medication on him. I checked it already. There isn't any. He hasn't had an attack for quite some time already. Why did it have to happen now? Damn it. Do you need to ask? It must be that ugly freak, Yuanwan, giving him a scare. Quick, send him to the nurse. Yuanwan at the side. Excuse me. How did I get implicated even when I'm just lying in the coffin? In the midst of the chaos, Cheng Shui and another girl quickly prepared to bring Xixia to the school nurse. But then, a paw resounded in the air. Xixia shoved Cheng Shui's hand away. He panted while he looked towards Yuanwan with those suffering but glistening eyes. Wanwan. Wanwan, take me. Damn. He's still at it? Cheng Shui's hands stiffened, and she stared at Yuanwan with sullen eyes. At first, she didn't care about Yuanwan at all. After all, it's very common for women of this type to be jealous. But who knew what this ugly freak did to Xixia that made him so smitten with her? Under everyone's gaze, Cheng Shui was slapped once again. Her expression was one moment green and the next moment white. She took a long time before swallowing her anger as she glared at Yuanwan fiercely. Ugly freak. Didn't you hear Xixia calling you? Cheng Shui's little sidekicks chimed in as well. Get over here right now. If it wasn't for you, why would Xixia have a relapse? Everyone started blaming Yuanwan. Although she felt she was totally innocent this time, she suddenly recalled that an asthmatic person shouldn't do any vigorous exercises and couldn't have fluctuating emotions. When she found out from Cheng Shui that Xixia hadn't had a relapse for a long time aside from the serious and sudden relapse today, could it be because he had too much of a shock last night? Anyway, there'd been something wrong with him starting from the beginning of the day. He seemed distracted like he had a big shock. With this thought, Yuanwan felt a little guilty. Watching Xixia having more and more difficulty with his breathing to the point where it was almost life-threatening, she stopped thinking and quickly jumped out of the crystal coffin, grabbed his arm, and helped him up. Chapter 188. She's not an ugly freak. After he was helped up by Yuanwan, he stuck to her, putting all his weight on her shoulders with his rapid breaths blowing on her neck. Under all the jealous and hateful stares, Yuanwan really felt like tossing him to the crowd. Why don't all of you carry him since you want it so much? I can't afford this beauty myself. In a flurry, she finally got him to the sickbay. The school's doctor quickly administered a puffer on Xixia and performed a general checkup. 39. 5 degrees, he's burning. He needs to be on the drip. He probably suffered a big shock and overexerted himself. He has to rest well now and remember not to be agitated or tire himself out again. The doctor warned sternly. High fever, trauma, overexertion. Upon hearing the doctor's words, Yuanwan felt more and more guilty. He wasn't faking it. He really was sick. Traumatized? How long did this guy stay by the lake last night? At the school's clinic, Cheng Shui and her clique were there waiting. There was also a large group of girls standing outside. Seeing how weak and frail Xixia was, a group of young girls were all crying, their hearts aching for him. The school doctor had a headache from all the noise as he glared at them. He only has a fever and an asthma attack. Do you guys have to act as if someone died? Don't crowd around here. It's very stuffy with so many of you here, and you could affect the patients. All of you, leave. Only one person can stay behind." After hearing what the school doctor said, Cheng Shui looked at Xia eagerly. The other girls didn't seem keen on leaving either. As for Yi Wanwan, she dragged this guy all the way here, and her arms were on the verge of breaking. After making sure that he was in stable condition, she was ready to leave stealthily. It was obvious that this wasn't a place she should stay for long. But who would have guessed that just as she stepped away, someone squeezed her wrist. The second she lowered her head, she saw a pale, almost transparent hand grabbing the corner of her top. On the narrow bed, Xia looked at her like he was being abandoned and protested. "Where are you going?" Yi Wanwan, "Damn. That's enough. Stop acting." Xia continued tugging onto Yi Wanwan's sleeves as he turned to the other girls and ordered with an unwelcoming tone, "All of you, get out." Why's he like that? Why Yi Wanwan, the ugly freak again? Annoying. All the girls stomped their feet in anger, but since the hunk had spoken, they could only leave grudgingly, complaining all the while. Cheng Shui was shaking in anger by the bedside, completely enraged with fury. Finally, she couldn't hold it in any longer as she turned to Xia and asked, enunciating each word carefully, "Xia, do you know what you're doing? Don't tell me you've really fallen for this ugly freak." A bitterness appeared from beneath Xia's eyes. "Take back what you just said." Cheng Shui was stunned. "Take back what I just said? Does this mean Xia is in love with Yi Wanwan? It's impossible. How could Xia fall for Yi Wanwan? He must be hiding something." Just as she had that thought, she heard Xia speaking, enunciating each word carefully to her. "She's not an ugly freak." Cheng Shui was on the verge of spewing blood out. "Xia, I think you've really lost your mind." "Yi Wanwan, don't celebrate too early." Cheng Shui shoved Yi Wanwan aside and ran away. Yi Wanwan wanted to chase after her, but since her sleeve was being tugged at, she could only stretch her hand out in despair. Don't leave me alone here, babe." Chapter 189. Why won't he listen? Imperial City, C Corporation. After Sui answered a call, his face changed as he opened the office door anxiously. "Ninth Master, the school just called. They said that young Master Xia had a relapse." When Han heard that, he looked up from the pile of documents and said with a straight face, "Prepare the car." "Yes." Sui was surprised. Young Master Xia was mischievous and rebellious. He didn't even listen to his parents, so the old madam specifically instructed the master to look after him. If anything happened to him, Master was responsible, or else he might raise the old madam's suspicions again. At Qinghe, only the principal and a handful of top management knew about Xia's identity. Hearing that Han would be making a trip down personally, the principal went to the gates and awaited his arrival. When he arrived, he even accompanied Han to the sickbay himself. Why would he have a relapse when he was doing just fine? Sui asked. The principal wiped his sweat, afraid that he'd be blamed for not taking proper care of Xia, and replied hastily, This was because he had a little fright during the rehearsal." Had a little fright? Sui didn't understand. How could he have a fright during rehearsal? The principal replied nervously, as he was put on the spot. "The girl that he acts with, she looks a bit frightening." Sui, that girl wouldn't happen to be Mizzy, right? "How is he?" Han asked. "He's not in any danger right now. He just has a slight fever. He's on a drip." Qinghe, sickbay. After everybody had left, there was only Yi Wanwan and Xia left in the sickbay staring at each other. Xia refused to release his grip on her sleeves, so Yi Wanwan had no choice but to speak up. "What? Do you want to go to the little forest with me again?" I didn't want to agitate him, seeing that he's sick at first. The moment she said that, the fingers gripping tightly onto her were released instantly with a swoosh. Yi Wanwan was very satisfied with the result. She withdrew her arm and said, "I already made myself very clear last night. Don't waste your energy anymore." Sui and his master had just arrived at the door of the sickbay when a familiar voice came through. This voice seems to belong to Yi Wanwan. Oh no, why is she here too? Sui's expression changed, and immediately after that, Xixia's agitated voice was heard. Yi Wanwan, are you really in love with Sihan? When Sui heard that question, the cold sweat on his forehead came trickling down. Why did we have to come at such a time? He was too careless. He should have checked the situation over here first, knowing that Yuanwan and Xixia were in the same school. Inside, Yuanwan sighed. I've already said this over 800 times. How many times do you want me to repeat it? My relationship with your ninth uncle is stronger than gold, and our love is like a rock. Unless the mountain becomes flat, unless all the rivers are parched, unless there's thunder in winter, unless there's snow in summer, unless heaven and earth collide, only then would I reject him. Sui at the door. This Yuanwan's getting more and more crafty. However, young Master Xixia isn't one to hold back if he has the intention to come between them. Sui didn't dare to relax at all. As he was fretting, sure enough, he heard Xixia's mocking laugh. Yuanwan, do you even believe in what you said? TSK, you like him? What do you like about him? His power? Or that face of his? You think I don't know that you weren't willing at all? And the way you dress, you're just trying to scare him off, right? Damn. Yuanwan muttered a curse. This brat is definitely hard to deal with. Her cover had been exposed just like that. The veins on Yuanwan's forehead popped out. All her patience had run out as she yelled at him. Avoid him. My ass. You brat. Why won't you believe me? Must I bring Si Han over here now and have sex with him in front of you for you to believe me? Chapter 190. Can't satisfy your request. Sui, who was at the door, choked and started coughing out of shock, nearly coughing his lungs out. Damn, this Yuanwan really isn't scared to say anything. She even had the guts to say that she'd have sex with Master right in front of Xixia. He simply didn't dare to look at his master's expression. At the same time, to prevent Yuanwan from saying anything else shocking, Sui quickly pushed the door open. Young Master Xixia, Ms. Yi, hearing the opening of the door, Yuanwan's back stiffened instantly. Then, she turned and saw Sui as well as Si Han. Oh my god! Why are these two here? Yuanwan stared at Si Han's icy-cold expression and felt as if she was the Titanic, with her senses totally knocked out. Her mind was filled with the comment she just blurted out boldly. Get Si Han over now and have sex right in front of you. Si Han definitely heard me since I was so loud just now. My integrity, my pure image, they're totally gone. Yuanwan's mind was abuzz and her vision was blurry. After a very long time, she managed to regain her senses from the shock and stammered nervously. Si Han, why are you here? Are you here to see Xixia? I was teasing this kid just now. Don't take it seriously. I really don't have that kind of dirty intention. Si Han remained quiet but looked at her rather subtly. Being silently stared at by Si Han's cold and intense eyes without knowing what was on his mind made her hair stand on end. Just as she was about to charge to the temple to confess her sins and become a nun, his thin lips finally opened slightly and said, Xiaxia's still a kid. Yuanwan didn't understand. Huh? So what about it? She totally didn't get what Si Han's sudden and random comment meant. Si Han lowered his gaze, adjusted his collar, then looked at her and replied lightly, So, I can't satisfy your request at the moment. Yuanwan. Yuanwan nearly spewed out blood on the spot. What the hell? Because Xixia's still a kid, they can't make love in front of him? So when Xixia's all grown up, then we'll be able to do that. Yeah, right. She really wanted to kowtow to Si Han's logic. He even managed to use such a serious tone to say that, as for Xixia still lying in bed, Yuanwan glanced at him and saw that his face was green and was reaching for the inhaler next to the bed. Poor kid. How are you feeling? Si Han finally turned his attention to the teenager on the bed. Xixia replied coldly, Hypocrite. Si Han ignored his attitude and replied indifferently, After your drip, get Sui to take you back to rest for a couple of days. Yuanwan nodded and added on. That's right. Xiaxia, you're too weak. Auntie's really worried. You better head home and have a good rest. Xia clutched his chest in pain, almost dying from exasperation from the two of them. Who caused me to be in this state? Now they're worried about me? Why didn't they care about my weak body just now when they were torturing me? Chapter 191. Perform the way you are at the same time. In the girls' dormitory, Cheng Shui's dressing table was a complete mess. There were broken mirror shards and expensive skincare products all over the floor. The other 3 girls in the dormitory were trembling and hiding in the corner. Nobody dared to go close to her. The 3 of them pushed each other in fright, and after Cheng Shui was done thrashing everything around her, one of the girls with short hair slowly walked towards her. Little Shui, don't be mad anymore. That ugly girl, Wan, is shameless and scheming. Xia was definitely taken in by her flowery speech. Actually, I have a suggestion that will reveal the true colors of that ugly freak for sure. Cheng Shui looked over at her in annoyance. All the other girls pressed her. What suggestion? Hurry, tell us. The girl with short hair spoke mysteriously. Do you guys know what Wan's most afraid of? What is it? The 2 of them didn't know, and Cheng Shui also seemed to be racking her brains for the answer. The girl with short hair replied excitedly, it's obviously removing her makeup. After being in the same class for so long, has any one of you seen her without any makeup? The 2 girls turned to look at each other as the taller and larger girl shook her head. Oh, we really haven't. But we can't be sure about this, right? Why would that ugly freak reveal her real face? She barely managed to conceal that terrifying face of hers with her thick makeup. The other sharp-chinned girl said mockingly, that ugly freak thought that since nobody's seen how she really looks like, she could shamelessly declare how pretty she really looks and say that she put on this makeup just to prevent people from getting jealous. I really have no idea where she got the guts to say stuff like that. Probably because everybody's as dumb as her. Also, there were rumors saying that not only was she born ugly, she probably got failed plastic surgery so she had no choice but to doll herself up like a ghost. Yeah, right. Failed plastic surgery? For real? Whether it's real or not, we'll find out once we see for ourselves, right? The girl with short hair said with a sinister smile. The 2 girls didn't understand. Huh? How do we find out? The short-haired girl smiled mysteriously and walked towards Cheng Shui to whisper something in her ear. Cheng Shui's cold and gloomy eyes gradually brightened up as she glanced at the short-haired girl like she was very satisfied with her suggestion. This idea isn't bad. We'll carry it out according to your plan then. In the blink of an eye, it was finally the day of the performance. The whole school was spick and span. There were banners welcoming the leaders of the school everywhere, and the big hall was decorated with lights and streamers. After Han arrived at the school, Xia was brought home to nurse his illness and had only returned to school the day before the performance. Xia's dumb fans had been silent for a while, allowing Wan to have a few days of peace. After the performance, major exams would be nearing, and by then, she'd be able to completely shake off this crazy suitor. Thinking about how close that day was, Wan didn't even mind being in that stiff costume. Cheng Shui had put in quite a bit of effort to prepare this costume, which made her look even more terrifying than usual. With the wig covered in cobwebs and the tattered costume made out of a monster hide, it looked truly demonic. Everybody, line up to get your makeup done. Hurry up, hurry up. Except you, Wan. You don't need any makeup, just perform the way you are. Ha 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 ha, why would she need any makeup? She can just go up on stage with her usual makeup look. Chapter 192. An outstanding performance thus. Wan's makeup was as per usual. Paired with her wig and costume, the effect was outstanding. As for the separate makeup room backstage, 3 girls were busy going in circles around Cheng Shui, getting her styled and ready. Wow, little Shui, you look breathtaking today. She's stunning every single day, all right? Our little Shui has been the beauty queen of the school for 3 consecutive years. All this flattery put Cheng Shui in a good mood. She brushed her fingers covered in lace gloves against her delicate face gently, then asked stiffly, "Have all of you done what I asked?" The short-haired girl nodded in excitement. Done, done. Everything's in place. Don't worry about it, little Shui. You'll definitely be able to watch an outstanding performance today. At this moment, the tall and plump girl asked hesitantly, "Will Xia be mad at us for doing this?" Cheng Shui's face turned frigid instantly. "What you meant was, will Xia be mad at me because of that ugly freak?" Upon seeing that Cheng Shui was about to enter into a rage, the three of them quickly waved their hands. Of course not. Why would he? Yes, yes, yes. Wait till Xia sees how that ugly freak actually looks like. He'll die from disgust for sure. With that comment, Cheng Shui's face turned warmer. If anything goes wrong today, the three of you can forget ever hanging out with me again. Yes, yes, yes. Everything will definitely go smoothly today. We have everything in order already, little Shui. Don't worry. At the front of the stage, the lights shone, accompanied by a burst of music as male and female hosts went up on stage with bright smiles. Below the stage, the students, teachers, and leaders were seated. After the hosts finished their opening speech and the school leader made a long and redundant speech, the show finally began. There were many varieties of performances by the different classes, singing, dancing, and comedic skits, everything under the sun. They fully showcased the students' talent and the progress of the school towards their goal. Enthusiastic applause erupted from the audience from time to time. Senior year's Class F's performance was placed at the end. It was rare to have both the school's beauty and hunk perform on the same stage. When the news was first announced, everyone highly anticipated this performance. Next up, we have Senior Year Class F playing Snow White. I believe everyone is familiar with this classic fairy tale, but today, our classmates are bringing a new twist to this play. It'll be like nothing you've seen before. Let's give them a warm welcome. Voila la, the loudest applause for the night resounded from the audience. Initially, the class thought that the audience would be sleepy from the long wait, but they were all suddenly energized by the thunderous applause. The teenagers raised their phones to take photos and cheered endlessly. Xia, Xia, Xia. Oi, my dream boy is finally about to appear. Cheng Shui, do your best, goddess. During the applause and shouts, the curtains on stage slowly rose and Cheng Shui stood gracefully in front of a mirror in a gorgeous red, European, medieval-style dress with a queen's crown on her head. The beauty's so gorgeous today. She's definitely the prettiest queen in history. Why isn't the goddess playing Snow White? This doesn't make sense. Snow White's supposed to be more beautiful than the queen. Since Cheng Shui's acting as the queen, who's going to be Snow White? Don't you know? Yi Wanwan is Snow White. What? Yi Wanwan? Are you kidding me? Isn't she the ugliest girl in Qinghe? Chapter 193. Kill her. She's hurting our eyes. On stage. Queen, mirror, mirror. Who's the fairest of them all? Mirror. Queen, you're beautiful. But I see a young lady whose tattered clothes aren't able to conceal her beauty. She's the fairest of them all. Queen, that's impossible. Nobody can be prettier than me. Who is she? Mirror. She, with lips as red as roses, hair as black as coal and skin as fair as snow. She is Snow White. At this moment, the props and background on the stage turned gloomy as Yi Wanwan appeared on stage. She had a messy wig on and wore a tattered skirt. She walked barefoot on the floor, and the thick makeup applied on her face made her look scarier than a witch. Ha 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 ha, is this really Snow White? This is absolutely one of the ugliest Snow Whites in history. No wonder the host said there's a twist. They're really creative. How is this creative? This is totally because the ugly freak didn't want to let go of the role of Snow White, so everybody had no choice but to change the script. When Snow White appeared, the school leaders sitting in the front row were taken aback as well. It was only after they heard the narrator explain that in order to protect Snow White, her mother forced her to doll up this way from childhood that they started nodding. So that's the reason why. During the chance encounter between the prince and the ugly princess, the prince was moved by the princess' kindness and fell deeply in love with her, despite her atrocious look. The performers thought about it long and hard and finally came up with a proper ending which was not bad. The teachers and leaders looked very satisfied and kept singing praises. The moment the hunter appeared on stage, the audience started roaring, "Kill her quickly! Kill her! She's hurting our eyes, and let the prince and queen be together happily." As for the moment Snow White was poisoned by the witch with a poison apple, everyone in the audience cheered. Judging by the audience's reaction, the play was totally recreated. Finally, the highly anticipated prince appeared. Watching their dream boy in a dashing prince costume walking slowly towards the crystal coffin, all the girls in the audience looked as if their mothers passed away, their faces filled with horror and heartache. The hunk had sacrificed so much for this performance. Yuan had nearly fallen asleep in the crystal coffin when she heard a pair of footsteps. Then she woke herself up and steeled herself to prevent any accidents from occurring. If this guy came over and suddenly kissed her for real, she'd definitely be torn apart by the girls in school. She could feel the breaths of Xia getting closer and closer and closer. "Do you know how many girls want to be kissed by me?" After some time, he murmured these words in her ear, and then the breaths finally went away. After being attacked continuously by her ultimate move, this brat behaved much better but was still out of place in the end. Yuan heaved a sigh of relief and quickly acted as if she was awoken by the kiss, completing the act. Thank God this performance was finally over. And up until the last scene, Snow White still hadn't revealed her real face. "I thought Snow White would reveal her real face to scare the audience." One of the school leaders laughed. The few teachers who knew what happened tried to smooth things over awkwardly. "Ha ha ha, that would be a cliché, wouldn't it? This way please, we've booked a hotel." Chapter 194. The True Image of Snow White. The performance went considerably well. All the teachers and school leaders sighed in relief that the leaders were satisfied. Next up was obviously a feast for dinner. The students also left the stage, one after another. As Class F was the last to perform, Yuan and a few other students were tidying up the props on stage. They're gone. The teachers and leaders are all gone. The tall and plump girl was panting as she informed Cheng Shui and the others backstage. Their scripts had been strictly vetted by the teacher, and since many teachers and leaders were around before, they couldn't do anything, but things were different now. Cheng Shui signaled the short-haired girl, and the girl gave a knowing smile, then immediately took the microphone and walked to the stage. "Everybody, please don't leave yet. There's still the post-credits scene." The girl's abrupt voice resounded throughout the big hall, attracting quite a bit of attention from the audience about to leave. Post-credits scene? What post-credits scene? Yuan, who was packing up the props on stage, turned to look at the girl speaking. The girl was the host and also one of Cheng Shui's sidekicks. Hearing this, the students about to leave the hall turned towards the stage in curiosity. Post-credits scene? What post-credits scene? "I don't know. We're not watching a movie. Why would there be a post-credits scene?" The short-haired girl turned to Yuan with a fake smile. "Does everybody want to find out how Snow White really looks like?" The crowd didn't understand. How Snow White really looks like? What does she mean? Is she referring to Yuan? Hearing this, Yuan frowned. She knew that after what had happened with Xia, Cheng Shui wouldn't let it go so easily. But her school pranks were childish, like pouring water over her, and giving her dead rats and isolating her. She didn't care about these pranks and didn't intend on wasting her energy on these kids. As for today, the one whom she had her guard up against was Xia. Now that the performance ended, she was completely relaxed. However, the moment the short-haired girl finished speaking, a big pail of water came splashing down onto the unguarded Yuan who was on stage. In an instant, Yuan was soaked through like a drenched chicken. "Ha, this is hilarious. So this is the post-credit scene?" The audience cheered crazily. Yuan stood rooted to the ground. Her face turned black instantly. "It's not over? How many times do they want to use the same prank?" The short-haired girl asked happily. Quiet. Take a guess. What did we pour over her?" Hearing this, Yuan was speechless. Everyone started discussing. Could it be acid? I don't think so. Pouring acid on that ugly freak is like giving her plastic surgery. Just a hint, this isn't just ordinary water. The girl with short hair hinted. That can't be makeup remover, can it? After the girl with short hair heard the answer from someone in the crowd, She immediately smiled and said, "That's right. It's makeup remover." Yuanwan couldn't care less at the beginning, but the moment she heard those two words, her face changed. She quickly hid her face in her hands, but it was already too late. That big bucket of greasy liquid was emptied, covering her entire head. She reached her arms out instinctively to touch her face, and her tacky foundation stuck to her fingers. Yuanwan stood there dumbfounded and didn't regain her senses for a long time. She didn't expect that one day she'd actually capsize in the gutter. Fuck, this group of little bastards. How could they? They actually poured makeup remover all over me. Chapter 195. The definition of a beauty, that's way too creative, ha 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 ha. It's killing me. Quick, quick. Everybody, take out your phones and take pictures. We've never seen how this ugly freak actually looks like. Come over, everybody. Look at how beautiful Snow White actually is, haha. Some girls suddenly obtained water hoses and started to spray water onto Yuanwan's face. The crazy peals of laughter and gleeful screams went through the roof. Not far off, Jiang Yanran was pushed to the back by the crazy crowd and couldn't pass through. She could only stand there and watch, on the verge of crying. Many schools had a community like this. Those at the bottom of the food chain were the targets of bullying. Just because she didn't look pretty, Yuanwan had become a target as well. The costume that Yuanwan was wearing was made of animal skin and was water-resistant, but the outer layer of fur was very absorbent. At this moment, it was as if a heavy piece of metal was stuck to her body. The soaked wig was also stuck onto the melting makeup on her face, making her look extremely horrific. And the sorrier she looked, the louder those people laughed. Soon, the hall was filled with people. The performance had already ended, but their party had just begun. Yuanwan stood in the middle of the stage, streams of water gushing at her in all directions. No matter where she turned, streams of water followed. Ugly freak. Stop hiding. What are you hiding? Didn't you say that you're as beautiful as an angel? Let's have everyone take a look then. The ugliest girl in Qinghe's history is about to reveal her real face. Don't miss out, everyone. At this moment, Cheng Shui stood silently by the side in her gorgeous gown and delicate makeup, admiring as Yuanwan's face got fouled up by her wig. She admired how she was like a little clown providing amusement on stage. TSK, just a lowly, dirty, and ugly worm. And she actually dared to steal my man away from me? Yuanwan narrowed her eyes dangerously, slowly clenching her fists, and finally, her fury rose from these brats' bullying and humiliation. In the end, she didn't move nor did she keep hiding. She slowly lowered her arms that she'd used to block the streams of water. In the next second, her fingers were on her collar as she slowly unfastened the buttons of the costume, one by one. Woo! Come look at her, everyone. The ugly freak is actually stripping right in front of everybody. She's so shameless. Even the two girls hosing her down also stopped what they were doing in shock and took out their phones to take a video. This was much more exciting than the performance. While everyone was shouting and whistling, Yuanwan didn't stop what she was doing. She continued unfastening every single button all the way down. The heavy costume fell to the ground with a crash. She also took off the inner lining of the costume until she was left in her own plain white dress. After that, she used the inner lining of the costume to wipe the residual dirt off her face. Finally, her fingers fumbled around her ears as she removed the soaking wet wig and headgear off her head. In the next second, the girl's jet black hair fell down her shoulders like a waterfall the moment she untied it, and her face, which was initially covered by her wig, was completely revealed to everyone. Through the big screen behind her, her image was magnified so everybody could see. The crazy shouts in the big hall immediately went as silent as the cicadas in winter. Those who were whistling, those who were shouting, and those who were taking videos stared at the girl who had black hair like a waterfall, her skin as white as snow, and who was stunning beyond words. They were all dumbstruck. During this moment of dead silence, the girl threw the wig she was holding to the floor. She looked up and swept through everyone like an icy blade with eyes that sparkled and spoke, enunciating every single word. Are you done? This is the definition of a beauty. Even when she was as frigid as frost, she was still extremely beautiful. Chapter 196. Satisfied with what you saw? Under the gaze of all those people, she took off her tattered and heavy costume, removed her wig, and washed away the thick makeup and dirt off her face. In a moment, it was as if a dusty pearl saw the light again, and it was so dazzling that it almost blinded their eyes. Her arrogant and fierce gaze was akin to a fiery blaze, burning down her disguise to practically nothing. Her magnificence blossomed in an instant. When Xixia received the news and rushed over, he saw this scene and stood there, dumbfounded. The people who had mocked her and watched the show were now stunned with disbelief. The only one who was calm, probably the only one who knew the truth, was Ling Dong. After some time, a sudden clang interrupted the silence in the big hall. Someone had accidentally knocked over a prop. Only then did everyone regain their senses. The whole hall was filled with alarming cries and discussion. Damn, she's gorgeous. She's stunning, all right. She's extremely beautiful. What's going on here? That's Yi Wanwan? That's impossible. I must be dreaming. How could that ugly freak, Yi Wanwan, be so beautiful? Touch my heart, it's beating so quickly. I feel like I'm in love. This is the goddess of my dreams. Oh my god. This was the ugliest girl in Qinghe, you say? This must be a trick you guys put on us juniors. This big sister is so alluring. Hey, little brat. You haven't even grown facial hair yet, and you're already trying to fight with us over your senior. First come, first serve, understand? In the middle of the stage, Yi Wanwan looked at everybody, even rowdier than before, and she furrowed her brows. Especially the boys who had mocked and ridiculed her just a second ago, but who were now calling her a goddess. Her original plan was to persist until graduation, but with that one prank spoiling everything, it was all over after holding on for so long. Just one suitor could almost take away half a life. With such a big group, she didn't have enough lives for everyone. Yi Wanwan's head was buzzing when she noticed Jiang Yin Ran standing in the crowd. Jiang Yin Ran seemed to be pushed by the shoving crowd as she fell to the ground in pain. Everyone's attention was on her. There were even people squeezing up to the front to get a closer look. It was total chaos and nobody noticed Jiang Yin Ran at all. Seeing that the crowd was still pushing and shoving, Yi Wanwan quickly went down the stage. When the shoving crowd saw Yi Wanwan walking over, they were all extremely excited and automatically parted to create an opening for her, like a tide. Where's the goddess going? I don't know. Is she going to find Xixia? Xixia watched as Yi Wanwan walked towards him, and his pupils constricted. However, everybody saw that Yi Wanwan passed Xixia and walked over to Jiang Yin Ran and said, "Sprained your ankle?" Jiang Yin Ran shook her head in shock. She never expected that Yi Wanwan would take notice of her even in such a situation. I'm fine. Yi Wanwan frowned and helped her up. I'll bring you to the sick bay. Oh. The goddess actually went to find Jiang Yin Ran. The gossipy crowd was instantly disappointed, but everyone's eyes couldn't bear to leave her. Yi Wanwan was about to leave, but seemed to have recalled something and paused, then looked towards Cheng Shui, curled her lips and said, "Great goddess Cheng, this was what you wanted, right? Are you satisfied with what you saw?" With that, Yi Wanwan took Jiang Yin Ran and left leisurely. Chapter 197. A change in the school beauty. Cheng Shui stared at Yi Wanwan, her face turning green in anger. She never thought that under Yi Wanwan's horrific and conspicuous makeup would be a face like this. And in light of Yi Wanwan's true face, her delicate makeup and gorgeous gown had all become a joke tonight. At this moment, everyone was staring in Cheng Shui's direction. They all had a strange look and started whispering to each other. Yi Wanwan had removed her remaining makeup, was totally barefaced and only had on a simple white dress, but was able to crush Cheng Shui, Qinghe's beauty, the dream girl of every boy, in her gorgeous gown within seconds. What's the meaning of this? Do you guys still remember Wanwan mentioned that she didn't reveal her real face because she was afraid it would bring about chaos? Damn, it was true. It's unbelievable. It's not unbelievable. We're almost graduating, and it's only now that I've found out that there's such a devastatingly stunning beauty in our school. With her looks, she overtakes our big school goddess, Cheng Shui, by at least 18 streets. If Yuanwan revealed her real face sooner, Cheng Shui would be a nobody, right? Everything today was planned out by Cheng Shui, right? She wanted to teach Yuanwan a lesson, yet she ended up slapping her own face. This Yuanwan and Cheng Shui were certainly Snow White and the Evil Queen. Amazing. Tonight was totally a fantasy. I can't get over this. The school goddess of Qing He for 3 consecutive years was actually defeated by an ugly freak. Who called her an ugly freak? Who called her an ugly freak? Who called my goddess an ugly freak? My goddess is the true beauty of Qing He. Whoever doesn't believe me, let's fight. We'll go by votes. Do we even need to bother voting? It's about time we have a change in the school beauty of Qing He. Cheng Shui glanced at the looks of ridicule. Upon hearing those comments, she shoved the 2 sidekicks next to her and rushed backstage. She ran and tore the gorgeous gown off at the same time like a mad person. And as for the girl with short hair who suggested this idea to Cheng Shui, who had planned everything and got Yuanwan soaked in makeup remover, she'd long been in shock. She didn't dare to approach Cheng Shui now, as she hurriedly buried her head and hid from her as far as possible. Amongst the noisy crowd, Shen Mengqi stood in the corner with her fists clenched tightly, a darkness looming over her face. Damn it! How could she? Why am I in a state where everyone's cursing me while that ugly freak Yuanwan can simply reveal her face and become the goddess of Qing He, even replacing Cheng Shui as the school's beauty? How did things go so wrong? Ever since Yuanwan refused to leave Jing Garden with Guyu Zhe as I'd planned, nothing's going the way I want. Not only that, but Yuanwan is getting more and more distant from me and getting closer to Jiang Yanran. Her phone suddenly rang. Shinmeng Qi looked at the caller ID, took a deep breath, and walked out of the hall. When she saw the name on the caller ID, there was a trace of disgust on her face, but the moment she answered, her voice became very tender. Hello, Brother Mu Fan? Did the performance today go smoothly? It was all right. Shun Mengqi's countenance was frigid. Tisk, smoothly? This ballet performance was the one she was best at, the Black Swan, and she was supposed to be dazzling tonight, but because of that incident with Song Zihang, there were only jeers the moment she stepped on stage. Chapter 198. Go back to pacify him. The caller probably sensed the sadness in her tone and asked anxiously, still upset over that incident? Shin Mengqi started sobbing helplessly when she heard that question. Mu Fan, I feel terrible. It was obviously that guy's fault since he kept pestering and threatening me. Why doesn't anybody believe me? Don't be sad, I believe you. Those who truly love and care for you would believe you. Why be upset over those people who don't matter at all? But Wanwan, even Wanwan doesn't believe me. Shin Mengqi said emotionally, like she was extremely heartbroken. Upon hearing Yi Wanwan's name, Yimu Fan was silent and spoke only after a long silence with a much colder tone. If she doesn't believe you, then so be it. I've warned you before not to get too close to her. Yi Wanwan's not worth being nice to. But I've always treated Yi Wanwan as my best friend. It's fine even if you lose a friend like her. All right, don't think about those unhappy events. Think about how you're going to be a big, popular star after you graduate. By then, there will be many people who'll like you. Shinmeng Qi's eyes lit up. Really? Can I really become a big star? Of course, I'll definitely help you become the most popular and prettiest new star. After visiting the sickbay, Yi Wanwan and Jiang Yanran returned to the dormitory together. Jiang Yanran sat on the bedside and looked at Yi Wanwan, concerned. Wanwan, are you okay? Although Yi Wanwan always looked as if she didn't care, Jiang Yanran could tell there were many things buried in her heart, including her looks. There must be a reason why she wanted to keep things secret by not revealing how she really looked. Now that she was forced to reveal her face and had been seen by everyone, was everything really fine? Yi Wanwan smiled bitterly and threw up her hands. Honestly, there's a problem, and it's a big problem. Very serious? Jiang Yanran's expression changed. Why can't you reveal how you really look like? Of course it's serious because I'm afraid of attracting suitors. My boyfriend's the jealous type. Yi Wanwan sighed. Jiang Yanran was stunned and then sighed deeply. She had tried to think of what kind of terrible consequences there'd be, but in the end, she was rewarded with a show of devotedness. Yu Wanwan knew what Jiang Yanran was thinking about, but didn't explain further. It'd be great if he was cute when jealous, but he's the kind who'll take your life away when he's jealous. In order to keep her life, Yu Wanwan had to quickly think of a way to deal with it. Yanran, I have something I need to discuss with you. I might not be living in the dormitory for some time, Yu Wanwan said. Not living in the dormitory? You're going to stay home? Jiang Yanran asked. Yu Wanwan was slightly taken aback by that question. Going home? I don't even have a home to return to. Yeah, I feel like staying home. I'm a little homesick. Yu Wanwan could only go with what Jiang Yanran said. I can't possibly reply saying that I'm going back to pacify a great devil, right? I heard what Shin Mingqi said about you fighting really badly with your family before. It's good that you've thought it through now. Every parent cares for their child. Just clear the air if there's any misunderstandings. Don't wait till it's too late. Jiang Yanran advised. Yu Wanwan nodded. Yep, got it. Chapter 199. Miss you to the point where I can't sleep before sleeping. Yu Wanwan sent a text to Si Han. Darling, I miss you so much. I miss you so much that I can't fall asleep every night. I've decided to apply for day school and not live in the dormitory anymore, so from next Friday onwards, I'll be able to go home every day. Are you happy? Since Qin Ruo she was back from Shen City, she had more control at Si Han's side. Plus, with major exams coming up, she could take this chance to get Si Han to tutor her in math, killing two birds with one stone. Within minutes, her phone rang. Si Han replied with the word, yep. Yu Wanwan hid under the blanket and laughed. I wonder what Si Han's expression is each time he reads my mushy text messages. I really admire him for replying to me so calmly each time. Oh yeah. Is Great White at home? I really want to play with Great White. Yu Wanwan asked further. Oh, I really miss Great White. I'm not sure whether Great White's at Jean Garden. This time, he took a longer time to reply. At home. That's great. Thinking about her cabbage and Great White, Yu Wanwan didn't feel so repulsed towards Jean Garden anymore. Midnight at the Jean Garden. Sui was summoned by his master all of a sudden and tasked with a job that sounded ridiculous. Si Han, get Si Lu Te back here. Sui was dumbfounded. It's the middle of the night, and he wants me to go to the mountains to look for Si Lu Te? I don't even know where to hunt. Where can I go to find Si Lu Te? It's such a windy and moonless night. Isn't the master worried that I'll be eaten by the beast? Is there a problem? Si Han looked at him. No, there isn't. I'll go look for it now. Find it before Friday. Yes. Sui accepted his orders bitterly and went on to look for the tiger, covering the mountains and plains. He really couldn't think of a reason why he had to find Si Lu Te so urgently. And I have to find it by Friday? The next morning, Yu Wanwan took out her huge makeup bag out of habit. After she took it out, she realized that she'd already blown her cover the night before. So, do I put on the makeup or not? If she continued putting it on, it would just make her look more conspicuous. But the consequence of not putting it on wasn't any better either. Yu Wanwan was still debating internally when there was a sudden din downstairs, and she heard her name vaguely. Why is it so noisy? Yu Wanwan knitted her brows. Jiang Yanran walked in from the balcony and looked at her. She was hesitant to speak, but in the end, she helplessly said, Go see for yourself. Yu Wanwan was confused. What's going on? Yu Wanwan put her makeup brushes down, scratched her head, and walked towards the balcony. Ah, goddess! 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 Wanwan the goddess! The goddess is out. Goddess, I love you. The goddess looks just like an angel when she wakes up. Ow, ow, ow. Goddess, I have a chromosome passed down from generations that I want to give to you. Yu Wanwan nearly turned deaf from the shouts when she reached the balcony. At this moment, she realized that the dense mass of people downstairs were mostly guys shouting, and the few windows nearby in the girls' dormitory were all open. Everyone was sticking their heads out to watch the fun, totally trying to stir up trouble. The dormitory caretaker had come out to warn them about the loud noise several times, but that didn't work. Yu Wanwan felt extremely awkward. Even though she sort of expected some trouble like this, it was way worse than she imagined. There was no wonder. So many people took pictures and videos last night, and this news had definitely gone around already. In addition, the lives of students were very dull and boring, so a little gossip can go on, not to mention such shocking news like what happened last night. Chapter 200. Do I look good? Standing at the side, Jiang Yin said helplessly, since things have reached this point, there's no use even if you keep putting on that makeup. Yi Wanwan was in a daze. In the end, she placed the huge makeup bag back into the cupboard. Her first sin was this face of hers. It was her weakness. After hiding for so long, this was the first time Yi Wanwan was barefaced. She first gave herself a moisturizing face mask, then packed away all her hideous clothes. To replace those were clothes that she'd sealed in a box for a very long time. A variety of pink and pretty dresses that were once her favorites, they represented the teenage years that she'd lost. Yi Wanwan combed her long hair and pinned up a few loose strands of hair at the side with a clip shaped like a musical note. Following that, she changed into a burgundy dress. It was an off-the-shoulder design with flowy, butterfly sleeves. The hem was like a blooming flower while the intricate tailoring outlined her slender waist and curves, and the color of the skirt brought out the fairness of her skin, which was already as white as snow. Looking at herself in the mirror in that dress, Yi Wanwan was in a daze. This was the present that Yimu Fan gave her on her birthday 2 years ago. There was no denying how great Yimu Fan's tastes were. Even after 2 years, this dress was still on trend. It was a pity that her relationship with her family and Yimu Fan at that time were already becoming estranged, and not long after, they had a big fight, after which she cut ties with her parents and fought very badly with Yimu Fan. She never ended up wearing this dress. Her father lost everything in order to protect her. Due to Shan Mengqi's meddling, it was as if Wanwan was possessed and voluntarily wanted to cut ties with her parents. Mu Fan must have resented having such a stupid and heartless younger sister. Because of her, the Yi family had a change of ownership. Everything that her father worked hard for was gone. Mu Fan also lost the glory of being the Yi family's young master and lost the right to love someone. She caused the family to be in this state, but because they were worried that she wouldn't be able to handle the truth, everyone hid it from her. She, the main culprit, was completely ignorant, going on with her life heartlessly, and was head over heels with a scumbag who turned his back on her and called off the engagement once her father lost power. She could only blame herself for being so useless and weak that her family had to sacrifice so much for her. Yi Wanwan drew back from her memories as she pushed the door open and walked out of the bathroom. "Do I look good?" Yi Wanwan asked. The moment Jiang Yin turned and saw the girl, a phrase came to mind. A real beauty with the flesh of ice and bones of jade. In this world, some people are really favored by the Creator. "Gr. Great," Jiang Yin replied, stunned. Last night, Yi Wanwan was already stunning in a simple white dress and casually let down long hair. That couldn't compare to when she really dolled herself up. Yi Wanwan gathered herself together. "I'm heading to class then." Oh, at this moment, Jiang Yin suddenly truly understood how Yi Wanwan's boyfriend felt. With a girlfriend who looked like that, he definitely wouldn't be able to feel at ease at all. Chapter 201. You're old and disrespectful. The whole class went silent when Yi Wanwan appeared at the door to Class F. Cheng Shui already expected that this would happen and had dolled up early in the morning, as if in preparation for her enemy's arrival. She even made sure that there wasn't a single crease on her dress, but who knew that Yi Wanwan's appearance would simply take away all the attention? Initially, he seemed to be expecting something, but the moment the restless Xixia saw Yi Wanwan at the door, the hand supporting his chin slipped and his face nearly smashed onto the table. Still, he didn't take his eyes off her. Everything happened so quickly last night that he couldn't see clearly and wasn't able to confirm what he'd seen. Yet the girl in the red dress in front of him unexpectedly overlapped with a figure in his memory. This face of Yi Wanwan, especially when she was in this red dress, truly resembled the person in his memory. Yi Wanwan didn't notice the bewildered gaze of Xixia. She pulled her chair out and sat down on her seat. When everyone saw the girl sitting down next to Xixia, sure that she was Yi Wanwan, there was an outburst of excitement throughout the class. Damn! She's too beautiful. This is simply unbelievable. That ugly freak, Yuanwan, is really beautiful. She's even better looking than last night. Compared to the great school beauty Chung Rong, it's ex-great school beauty Chung. She's even more beautiful. Can she get any prettier? Hearing the gasps of surprise in class coming one after another, especially the phrase ex-school beauty, Chung Shui bit her lips so hard in exasperation that they nearly bled. At this moment, the two girls sitting in front of Ching Shui rebutted unhappily. How is she even pretty? She's just a far cry from our Ching Shui. That's right. What kind of taste do you boys have? You actually fell for a vixen like her. Jealousy causes one to be ugly, a boy said profoundly. When the girl heard that, she screamed, Who's ugly? You're the one who's ugly. Your whole family's ugly. Whoever's answering is the ugly one and probably even blind. While a small group of people were making a fuss, Yuanwan tried to shove her books into her desk. In the end, she couldn't get them in at all. What's going on? Is there something in my desk again? Yuanwan buried her head and looked. What she found were many brightly colored things inside. Love letters, chocolates, sweets. She was really flattered and overwhelmed. In the past, if it wasn't a dead rat, it would be a caterpillar. Yuanwan suddenly noticed a certain someone next to her staring, but this time, she kept her cool. Anyway, she was in so much debt now that she wasn't bothered by him anymore. Tisk, Xia clicked his tongue. Yuanwan found a bag to put all these things in and emptied everything out from her desk before she managed to stuff her books in finally. Then, she turned her head and glared at him. What do you want now? Xia held his head, looked at her and scoffed. With a look of pity, he said, If you looked like that sooner, would you have been mocked for so long? Yuanwan rolled her eyes at him. As long as my baby likes it. For my baby, I'd even dress up as a ghost if he likes it. Much less be ugly. Leave me alone. Baby? He heard how Yuanwan called Han and nearly vomited blood. Yuanwan raised her brows, her little face as brilliant as the sun. What about me? Xia. You're old and disrespectful. Yuanwan. He's ruthless. Attacking my age since he can't attack my looks, huh? Chapter 202. Call me Big Brother, and I'll teach you. The school bell rang and the class finally quieted down. Almost every teacher from every class had to ask who she was, and even suspected that she was an imposter there to attend class for Yuanwan. Oh please, am I so dumb? If I wanted to find someone to replace me, I would have found someone who resembles me right. In the blink of an eye, it was the afternoon already. In the meantime, aside from being interrogated by the teachers every class, she was being watched as well. Almost everyone from various levels came over, as if to watch something fascinating. Yuanwan rubbed her chin and muttered, Keep looking at me and I'm going to have to collect tickets. Xia quickly gave her a wink. Let's do it together. I think we'll be rich if we work together. Yuanwan looked out of the window as the skies grew darker. Why is it suddenly so chilly? Because of the typhoon. The weather today will be colder, don't you know? Xia replied. You're actually in the habit of checking the weather forecast? Yuanwan was surprised. I don't. Then how did you know? Xia pulled out his phone and showed it to her. She saw a big chunk of lovely text messages reminding him to keep himself warm due to the weather changes. Yuanwan. Fine. He has countless young fangirls doing the checking for him. Sure enough. It started pouring outside and the weather got colder. But nobody was dressed warmly, just like her, since after all, the weather yesterday was as hot as summer, and there was no indication of a change in weather in the morning as well. She only had a dress on and the clothes in her dorm were all summer outfits. She didn't even have a jacket. Xia glanced at her. Cold? Yuanwan was speechless, obviously. Xia sighed. I can't help you even if you're cold. I've only brought one jacket. If I took it off for you, I might not be able to keep my chastity. Yuanwan. Air. No need, thanks. As Xia spoke, he suddenly shot a look towards the door, however. Your jacket delivery army should arrive very soon. What jacket delivery army? The moment Xia made that comment, a fair-skinned and young junior stood by the door. looked towards Yuanwan and stammered, Hello senior. I'm Zhang Rui from junior year class A. The weather is so cold today, and you're wearing so little. You'll fall ill like that. Why don't you put this on? Damn, where did this brat come from? How dare he come to our turf and steal our chick? Let's get him, brothers. It's so shameful if the juniors snatched our school beauty from us. The boys in F class suddenly raged. Thus, not long after, a heap of clothes piled up before Yuanwan. No thanks, I'm not cold. How could you not be cold? Senior, you're sneezing. I'll just go back to the dorm to get one. How can you do that? It's pouring outside right now. Really, I'm good. You need it, you need it. While Yuanwan was rejecting each one of them, Xixia's jacket delivery army arrived as well. A sweet young lady stood in front with a black men's coat in her hands. Xixia, why are you wearing so little? You were sick before. You better not catch a cold. If you don't mind, put this on. I just borrowed it from my brother in the next class. Xixia replied plainly, No need. I'm not used to wearing someone else's clothes. It's like this. All right then. The young girl walked away in disappointment with the coat, and all the other girls, who were itching to have a go, left as well. Yuanwan, who was still fighting her battles, gasped in amazement as she watched from the side. Amazing! He managed to deal with all of them with just one comment? Xixia seemed to read her mind, and a smile appeared across his face. What's up? Do you want to take some lessons from me? Call me Big Brother and I'll teach you. The corners of Yuanwan's mouth twitched. I'll call you Grandpa. Who wants to learn these things? Chapter 203. I really have to hand it to you, Achu. Yuanwan sneezed as the wind blew right into her face. She had no choice. She was seated in the first row, facing the door, and the cold wind was blowing right through. Due to the weather changes, there were many anxious parents who delivered clothes to their children personally, and some got their helpers to deliver them to their little babies. Yuanwan was contemplating whether to head back to her dorm in the snow to get a blanket when she saw a familiar figure opposite, near Class A. The moment she saw that person, Yuanwan's expression changed, and she stood up immediately. Big Brother. What she saw was Shenming Qi walking out of her classroom in a flimsy dress as Yimu Fan took out a long coat from the bag in his hand. He wrapped Shenming Qi up tightly, rubbed her hands for some warmth, and then spoke to her with a loving expression. It was as if Yuanwan lost her soul when she stood there watching that scene. Her eyes turned red immediately. Xixia immediately took notice of Yuanwan acting differently. He raised his brows and looked in the direction that she was staring at, and first saw Shenming Qi before seeing a tall and handsome man. Even with his high standards, he had to admit that the handsome man was a rare sight, and what shocked him was that this man seemed to resemble Yuanwan. Hey, what are you doing? Looking at cute guys? Xixia asked in confusion. Yuanwan didn't react at all. Her sight kept following that man, looking at him fussing and nagging at Shenming Qi, looking at him walking Shenming Qi back to class and watching him go downstairs and driving out of the school's gate, until that car vanished into the snow. Xixia watched as Yuanwan's tears streamed down. Seeing that Yuanwan was crying all of a sudden, Xixia was in shock. Hey, what's wrong with you? Why are you crying suddenly? Are you all right? Yuanwan continued looking in the direction of Yimu Fan, leaving as her tears continued streaming down silently, completely out of her control. After some time, Yuanwan sat down sluggishly and laid her head on the desk. She covered her tear-stained face and her shoulders shook slightly as she started to sob lightly. Bad person. He knew that she and Shenming Qi were in the same school. He knew that she'd be in the classroom just opposite of Shenming Qi's, yet he delivered a coat only to Shenming Qi and forgot about her completely. Was this punishment? If it was, he succeeded. I'm so depressed and hurt. I feel like I'm almost dying. When she thought about her older brother, who once loved her so much, giving everything to Shenming Qi, but she was the one who caused everything to go this way. This was the first time ever since she was reborn that she couldn't control her emotions at all and didn't want to control them anymore. It was too difficult to bear. Xixia was at a loss. Yuanwan. What exactly happened? Bad person? Who's the bad person? Don't cry anymore. He kept disturbing her and her head was on the verge of breaking. Don't bother me. I'm cold, so I'm crying, all right? Xia pursed his lips tightly and stared at her crying on her desk as he muttered softly, I really have to hand it to you. He then grabbed the edge of the t-shirt he was wearing, casually flipped it over, and managed to remove his top seamlessly. Then, he forcefully placed it over Yi Wanwan. The class went silent for an entire 10 seconds. Following that, they oogled at Xia's naked upper body, his collarbone, muscles. Every girl in class let out a scream as if an atomic bomb had exploded. Chapter 204. Attracting tons of hatred, what a treat. The hunk actually took off his clothes right in front of them. This kind of excitement was simply earth-shattering for these fangirls. In a split second, the roof of Class F was almost torn down by the screams from the girls. Xia frowned at the ruckus, troublesome. He knew this would happen. As for Yi Wanwan, she lifted her head and saw Xia sitting there half-naked, his clothing covering her. Yi Wanwan was in shock. I only cried for a little while. What exactly happened? Damn, what's wrong with you? Weren't you cold? You were so cold that you started crying. Xia replied as a matter of fact. I was just casually saying that. Can't you tell? Furthermore, even if I really did cry from the cold, what's the use of this tiny, tattered, and thin piece of clothing? The only use it has is to attract tons of hatred for me. Now, not only the girls in F class but the girls in the opposite classrooms were going crazy after receiving the news as well. Class A, a group of people crowded around Shun Ming-chi, asking her questions. Hey, Shun Ming-chi, the guy who brought the coat for you just now, was he Qinghe's XXX school hunk? After being neglected for a period of time, Shun Ming-chi's eyes lit up when people spoke to her voluntarily. She nodded and explained, he's Brother Mu Fan. My dad asked him to bring it over to me since he was on the way. I knew it. After so many years, he hasn't changed and even became better looking. You're so lucky to have the hunk delivering a coat to you personally. When the crowd saw the branded coat on Shun Ming-chi, they inevitably felt a bit jealous. Tisk. Shun Ming-chi was just a little follower of Yi Wanwan in the past, and she had a chance to get close to the hunk all because of Yi Wanwan. Now the hunk is working for her family and was even ordered to deliver a coat to her. As the saying goes, every dog has its day. The Yi family's unlucky. Everyone was having a discussion when all of a sudden, an outburst of screams erupted from Class F. Thus, everybody forgot about Shun Ming-chi. They stuck their heads out and looked across curiously. What's going on? What's going on? What's happening in Class F? It seems like Xia's naked. Oi, what nonsense. Xia just removed his top. He has abs, ow ow ow. I want to take a look. Today's perfect. Not only did I see the ex-hunk, I even got a treat from the current hunk. What are you even excited about? Your ex-hunk came to deliver a coat for another girl, and your current hunk's stripping for another girl, alright? Damn it. Who was it? Who did Xia strip for? Was it Cheng Shui? Wrong. It's for the current beauty of our school, Yi Wanwan. Damn. Yi Wanwan again. But it was really unexpected that Yi Wanwan's so beautiful. She's even prettier than Cheng Shui. Shun Ming-chi heard the discussion around her and their envious tones. Seeing that Yi Wanwan managed to change their views drastically with just that face of hers, Shun Ming-chi's eyes turned gloomier as a bad premonition grew in her heart. She didn't expect what happened last night. Yi Wanwan actually revealed her appearance. Did she not care about Si Han anymore? That dumb girl wouldn't become enlightened all of a sudden and want Si Han instead of Gu Yuze, would she? How could that be? Moreover, it's said that Xia's family's extremely wealthy as well. Why are there always so many outstanding guys around Yi Wanwan, that moron? While I ended up in this state because of just one guy, Song Zihang. But, TSK, Yi Wanwan, don't rejoice so quickly. Cheng Shui's not someone to be trifled with. Just wait and see how you perish. Chapter 205. A Lovely Feast. Class F. Xia saw the unhappiness on Yi Wanwan's face and his face turned black immediately. I saw that you were crying so badly, so I risked the loss of my chastity and stripped for you. Yet you're not even grateful. Upon hearing the screams around her and the number of teenage girls rushing over to look, Yuanwan sobbed in her heart. Was his chastity that important? She was about to lose her life. The way those teenage girls glared at her was as savage as wolves and tigers. Just at this moment, in the midst of the excited screams, a sharp voice resounded, "Shameless vixen. So what if you're pretty? You think you can go around seducing guys just because you're pretty, huh?" That's right. Xixia obviously belongs to our little shui. Shameless third party. Hearing those words, Xixia's expression turned icy. Since when did I become her man? The Chung family wanted to develop friendly relations with the Xi family, but didn't have the right connections, so in the end, they aimed to prey on his good-for-nothing father and try to connect the families through the marriage of their daughter with Xixia. He only thought that since Cheng Shui didn't look too bad, he might as well give her some face. Yet she's already claiming him as her man? Cheng Shui's sidekicks were slapped in the face by Xixia personally and left speechless. When Cheng Shui saw how protective Xixia was towards Yuanwan, she trembled in rage and sneered at Yuanwan. "Yuanwan, I've underestimated you. You're so capable, and even got Xixia to obey you." Yuanwan cursed in her heart. What's wrong with my nephew respecting the elderly and obeying his auntie's words? Xixia was already at his limit. Shut up if you don't want to die. Cheng Shui was on the verge of exploding. Her face contorted as she screeched, "Shut up? Why should I shut up? Did I say something wrong?" She snatched my man away shamelessly. Yuanwan's expression was rigid. "Cheng Shui, I think you've got it wrong. I said before that I have a boyfriend, and with my boyfriend's qualities, there's no need for me to snatch anything of yours." Upon hearing that, Xixia's face became as black as the underside of a pot. "Even if you wanted to prove your innocence, you didn't have to stab me in the process." Cheng Shui sniggered. "Huh? Your boyfriend's better than Xixia? Yuanwan, you talk really big. Do you have any idea who Xixia is?" Her sidekicks chimed in. "What a joke. She's not even afraid of getting her tongue struck for telling a lie like this. Does she think we're fools? A vixen like her is only compatible with a rich old man." Everyone around them was speechless after hearing what Yuanwan said. Although what Cheng Shui's sidekick said was awful, it was somewhat true. After all, Yuanwan was only an abject princess now. All she had was a pretty face, incomparable to Cheng Shui's family background. Yuanwan's tooting her own horn a little too loudly this time. She's been bragging that her boyfriend's 100 times better looking than Xixia. That's too ridiculous. Everybody was discussing it when all of a sudden, someone by the window exclaimed, "Wow! So dashing. What is it? What is it? What is it this time? Quick, look at that man over there. Quick, quick." What they saw was a person walking on the overhead bridge, a man in a plain black suit with a high nose and cherry-stained thin lips. His forehead was as fair as snow. His finely carved silhouette was so perfect that he looked like a god from a Greek myth. There was someone standing next to him, propping up a black umbrella for him respectfully, and the man was walking in the storm like a painting done with splashes of ink. The crowd hadn't regained their composure from Xixia's muscles, but were stunned by this lovely feast for their eyes. They didn't dare to make a single sound, afraid that this dreamy scene would be destroyed if they did. Chapter 206. Destroy every living creature. Damn it. So dashing. More than just dashing. He's simply out of this world. Most importantly, it's the aura. The aura. Oh my God. I'm about to faint. When Yuanwan looked out the window, she froze and the screams by her ears became distant, leaving a dead silence. All she saw was that man. That unemotional and aloof expression on his flawless face. He was approaching slowly in the rain under an umbrella. He looked simply like a great devil who'd been living in seclusion in a cave and had suddenly arrived on Earth, ready to destroy every living creature. Damn it! What did I just see? Yihan. Yuanwan was first enthralled by the great devil's beauty, totally charmed by it. Her second reaction, "I'm so dead. It's my death anniversary a year from today. Shit. Why? Why would Yihan suddenly appear in school? She was still in another man's clothes, and next to her was a naked man. For this, it wouldn't even be enough if she died 100 times. She was going crazy. "I'm so dead thanks to you, bastard," Yuan said, as she quickly removed the clothing from her body clumsily. However, it was too late. Her seat was too close to the door, and she was certain that Si Han had already seen her. She was simply making matters worse by trying to hide like she'd done something wrong. Xia retracted his gaze from Si Han and looked at her as she removed his clothes. His expression turned gloomy. "Are you that afraid of him?" Yuan glanced sideways at him. "I'm afraid of him? You kidding me? He's my father. Each time I see him, I want to kneel and call him king." Xia. At this moment, everybody in Class A had noticed Si Han's presence. Their eyes almost popped out. "Whoa, who's this guy? Who is he? Who is he? He's too handsome. What's he doing in our school? Judging by his age, he can't be a student's parent. Did he come here to meet the school leader? I don't know. I've never seen him before. What's the occasion today?" All these Casanovas appearing one after another like they're in full force. Please, the ex or current school hunk can't even be compared to this man, all right? Not only is this person handsome, he has a terrifying aura as well. His influence must be huge. Damn, I really want to know. Who exactly is this guy? Seems like he's walking in the direction of Class F. While everyone was having an intense discussion, Shun Mengqi was completely dumbfounded, her eyes filled with disbelief. Si Han. He actually came to school. In the past, she still had the opportunity to meet Si Han quite often because of her friendship with Yuan. But ever since her plan to get Gu Yuze to help Yuan escape failed, she hadn't had the chance to see Si Han. No matter how hard she tried to drive a wedge between Yuan and Si Han to ask him out, that dumb girl was never fooled. This was the first time she'd seen him in a very, very long time. The moment she saw him, the hope that was long extinguished in her was suddenly ignited once again. Who's Song Zihang? Who's Yimu Fan? Who's Xia? This man. If she could be with this man. Just as Shun Mengqi felt overwhelmed with emotions, she suddenly realized that Si Han was walking towards Class F and her countenance changed instantly. Chapter 207. Don't make me take my pants off as well, yeah? Just as Shun Mengqi felt overwhelmed with emotions, she suddenly realized that Si Han was walking towards Class F and her countenance changed instantly. Si Han's here to look for Yuan? Then wouldn't everyone find out about Si Han and Yuan's relationship? Wouldn't that dumb girl be pleased to death? With that thought, she couldn't even sit still anymore. It was as if someone had stolen something from her. That can't happen. At this moment, Shin Mengqi seemed to have thought of a plan as there was excitement across her face all of a sudden. No, she's dead. Yuan's dead meat today. She's probably still in Xixia's clothing. Huh? This dumb girl, Yuan, didn't grab hold of a man like Si Han and actually fell for Xixia. Today, I have to make all her hopes and efforts go to waste just like a wicker basket being used to draw water. However, Xixia, Si Han, both of them have the same surname. Could it be that they're related in some way? After all, the surname Si isn't very common. A flash of suspicion flashed across Shan Mengqi's eyes, but it was very quickly cast to the back of her head. No matter how great Xixia's family background is, how could he be related to the Si family at all? Furthermore, Xixia's a transfer student from Shan City. His family's probably just local tyrants. He's here. He's here. He's really coming to our class. Who's he looking for? Could it be that he's also delivering a coat? Oh my god. No way. Who's it for? The girls in Class F were going crazy. They watched as Si Han got closer and closer. Yuan, on the other hand, was almost hiding under her desk. She forced the clothing into Xixia's hand like it was a hot potato. Put this on right now. Xixia sneered. No? Yuan gritted her teeth. Wear it now, or I'll beat you up. Xixia chuckled. Don't make me take my pants off as well, yeah? Yuan, where's your integrity? While she was speaking, Si Han had reached the entrance to the classroom. Sui saw the clothing that Yi Wanwan was shoving to the half-naked young master Si Xia and was flabbergasted. Damn, what kind of scene is this? This is insane. Yi Wanwan saw Sui's expression, and he looked as if it was doomsday. She then slowly covered her face with her hand. I won't be able to wash my crime away even if I jump into the Lethe River, bastard. Si Xia had zero intention of putting on his clothes. He just sat there and looked at Si Han provocatively until a sharp pain emerged from his thigh. Shit, this darn woman. She's about to pinch my flesh off. TSK, continue pinching then. I won't put it on even if she pinches me to the death. Yi Wanwan gritted her teeth and glared at that little bastard who'd rather die than submit. Finally, she could only submit to fate. She trembled as she stood up, left her seat and walked towards the door. Under the gaze of everybody, they all watched as Yi Wanwan stood up and walked towards the man. Yi Wanwan wasn't in the mood to care about the looks that other people were giving her. At this moment, every single strand of hair was on its ends and everyone's attention was on the guy. That F.A. When she met the man's condescending and icy cold gaze that lacked any human emotions, Yi Wanwan almost called him father. Yi Wanwan bit on her own tongue, quickly calmed herself down and forced a smile. Darling, why were you here? Chapter 208. The Great Devil's Delivering Some Warmth? Yi Wanwan spoke as she continued to struggle on her deathbed, and Shat Xia looked to get him to put his clothes on. In addition, she was also pushing all the love letters, candies, and chocolates to Xia's side. All these belong to him. They belong to him. I've got nothing to do with them. Forced laugh. Xia noticed that she was pushing everything over to his side, and his face darkened. He raised his brows and took out one of the love letters. Aya. On the cover were the words, Wanwan the goddess, Saranghio, 1. In big, bold words. Yi Wanwan. I really want to strangle this bastard to death. There was still a remnant of the cold from outside the classroom on Si Han's body. His devilish face was stained with icy frost as well, and what laid before her eyes was like the bitter cold wind that sliced through her thin clothing. Yi Wanwan felt as if her internal organs were about to freeze. At this moment, a cold breeze blew in. Achoo! The psychological and physical coldness caused her to sneeze thrice in a row, and she felt very clearly that the aura around Si Han became even more frightening. I'm dead meat this time. Not only is there Si Xia, there's also 10 miles of suitors queuing for me. That, darling. The thing is, even when she knew that there was no use in explaining herself, Yi Wanwan still tried. Just as she was racking her brain for an explanation, Si Han suddenly glanced at Sui. When Sui received the indication from his master, he immediately brought out the bag in his hands and from it, he took out a white roll. That seems to be a coat? In the next second, there was warmth on Yi Wanwan's cold and trembling shoulders. Si Han had placed that coat over her, without any expression on his face at all. Seeing that she was just standing here in a daze, Si Han looked at her and then raised his brows. Like taking care of a child, he helped her loop her arms through it, and then his slender fingers fastened each button, one by one. This was an extremely soft and fluffy cloak-style jacket. The edges were lined with warm white fur, instantly cutting her off from the cold from the outside world. Yi Wanwan was wrapped up tightly with only her little palm-sized face peeking out. That face of hers looked even more charming against the white fur, and her dazed eyes looking straight at him were as beautiful as stars after a snowfall, enticing him to reach out to her. He looked at the girl in front of him and his gaze darkened all of a sudden, a steaming undercurrent surging beneath his eyes. Yi Wanwan never expected that it wasn't death awaiting her, but instead, it was a warm coat. Feeling the heat and softness that was almost like fluffy clouds, the cold buried deep in her bones slowly dissipated from her body as a strange warmth flowed into her heart. This unexpected coat actually makes my nose a little prickly. Si Han actually brought a coat for me? Si Han saw something amiss with Yi Wanwan's expression, and a shroud of darkness appeared on his face that was initially expressionless. What is it? Is it so hard to accept the fact that I brought her a coat? Yi Wanwan regained her senses abruptly and lifted her head and said, shocked, no, nothing. I'm still cold, that's all. My hands are freezing. When Si Han heard that, he gave Sui a look once again. Sui immediately understood and took out a pair of gloves. Fully prepared indeed. But Yi Wanwan's face turned dark when she saw that pair of gloves. Damn. I said that on purpose to tease him a little. Shouldn't a normal guy's reaction be to hold my hand and use his body heat to warm me up? What the hell was with the gloves? Chapter 209. Si Han's woman Yi Wanwan accepted the pair of gloves with mixed feelings. Not happy. I thought I could get him to hold my hands and ease the atmosphere a little, then he might not be so mad anymore. But in this current situation, is he angry or not, exactly? Forget about his low EQ. He even has facial paralysis. It's so hard to have a boyfriend like him. I totally can't guess what he's thinking. Just as Yi Wanwan sighed in regret, everyone around her stared at that perfect couple at the door and was speechless from the shock. What am I seeing? Yi Wanwan actually. She really has a boyfriend. And he's so good looking at. She wasn't exaggerating when she said that he's much better looking than Xia. Just his face is enough, alright? Listening to the discussions around him, Cheng Shui didn't move at all, like her entire body was fixed in place. That face of hers was abnormally pale, as if she had seen something terrifying. Si Han, that legendary master of the Si family who kills without batting an eyelid. Even if she'd only seen him once from afar because of Xia, she definitely recognized him. This man, you only have to meet him once and you'll never forget him. But how could it be? How could Yi Wanwan's boyfriend be Si Han? If this was the case, why would Yi Wanwan let go of Si Han and run over to seduce Xia? Could it be? Could it be that Xia was so caring towards Yi Wanwan from the start because of this? Because Yi Wanwan is Si Han's woman. Oh my god. If Si Han finds out about the things I did to Yi Wanwan. With that thought, a tremendous fear emerged on Cheng Shui's face instantly. At the same time, she suddenly recalled the warning that Xia gave her, shut up if you don't want to die. While everyone was still dumbfounded, a voice came from behind the man all of a sudden. Mr. C. All they saw was Shun Ming-chi in a pink dress standing there shyly, saying hi to Si Han. When everybody saw that, their hunger for gossip was displayed in their eyes. Shun Ming-chi knows this person too. When Si Han recognized that it was Shun Ming-chi, his gaze landed on her for a brief moment, but his gaze was empty, as if she didn't exist. Sui never had a good impression of Shin Ming-chi. Seeing that she'd invited herself over, his face turned cold as he took a step towards Si Han, blocking any intention to get closer. When she saw that Si Han didn't even react when he saw her, Shin Ming-chi bit her lip, slightly embarrassed, but when she remembered that this man was like that to everyone, she felt a little better. Shin Ming-chi wasn't able to get closer to Si Han, so she walked to Yi Wanwan's side warmly and spoke in a very friendly manner. Did you come to give a coat to Yi Wanwan? This coat looks great, the gloves are cute too. There's even a little tiger on them. Shin Ming-chi spoke so much, yet Si Han ignored her, and even Yi Wanwan didn't respond to her words. It was like she was performing a monologue. Shin Ming-chi's expression grew increasingly awkward, and there was a flash of gloominess beneath her eyes. Then, her gaze seemed to move in Xia's direction carelessly. It was as if she had a guilty conscience and suddenly said to Si Han anxiously, Mr. Si, you must never misunderstand Wanwan and Xia. Xia merely saw that Wanwan was cold, so he took off his top and gave it to her. They're just ordinary friends. Wanwan would never mix with those complicated people outside. You must believe her. This comment she just made would make him misunderstand even if he didn't misunderstand at first. Yi Wanwan had a mocking look on her face as she looked at Shin Ming-chi quietly. Shin Ming-chi finally couldn't tolerate it anymore and is driving a wedge between Si Han and me, right in front of me. Complicated people? TSK. At this point in her past life, Shin Ming-chi still didn't know about Xia and Si Han's relationship. Chapter 210. Choke this bastard to death, TSK. At this point in her past life, Shin Ming-chi still didn't know about Xia and Si Han's relationship. Furthermore, Yuanwan had already torn down Shun Ming-chi's mask in front of Si Han, so her words had lost all credibility. It'd be better for Ming-chi if she didn't try to drive a wedge between them. By trying to interfere with their relationship in such an obvious manner, there was no way Si Han would believe her. At the same time, Cheng Shui, who was standing off to the side, stared in Shun Ming-chi's direction in astonishment. Initially, she thought that this woman, Shun Ming-chi, really knew Si Han and was very close to him. But after she heard her call Si Xia a complicated person, she was speechless. None of the few brothers in the Si family had an heir yet, and Si Han wasn't even married, so Si Xia was the only young master in the Si family. His status was extremely high. Although many people said that with Si Han's mistrustful and tyrannical character, he wouldn't let any one of them have a descendant, giving them the right of inheritance. But the truth was that Si Han treated his nephew quite well, and even gave him quite a bit of respect. There was a rumor that once, a reckless relative thought that by bullying Si Xia, he'd be able to get into Si Han's good books, so he humiliated Si Xia in front of everyone and called his father a useless scoundrel. But after Si Han found out, he got someone to slice that man's tongue off instantly. That bloody and gruesome scene shocked everyone in the Si family. From then on, nobody in the Si family dared to disrespect Si Xia. And now, Shin Ming-chi actually dared to call Si Xia a complicated person? She even said it right in front of Si Han? On the other hand, Shin Ming-chi saw that Si Xia was still half naked. That was blatant proof right there. She was so excited that she lost control of her emotions. She couldn't believe that Si Han was still so calm when this was akin to catching a couple in the act. Even if Yuanwan merely breathed a single word to another guy, Si Han would flare up and go into a murderous rage. Yuanwan had even accepted the clothes of a man with such a pleasing appearance, and this man still strutted around half-naked next to her. Shin Mingchi acted like she was very worried for Yuanwan and pleaded, Si Xia, you should put your clothes on quickly. You're creating a misunderstanding for Yuanwan. The way Si Xia looked at Shin Ming-chi was akin to looking at a fool. Where did this fool emerge from? Yuanwan is actually best friends with this fool? TSK, she definitely has a problem with her brain. No wonder she'd fall for a pervert like Si Han. Si Xia sneered and grabbed his clothes. He leaned back and showed off the figure that was lean when clothed and muscular when bare. Those defined and smooth abs glistened. Tisk, I'm not putting them on. I just wanted to strip naked for her. So what? The moment Si Xia said that, a deadly silence fell upon the entire classroom. Yuanwan's eyes were gaping wide. If Si Han wasn't there, she would have pounced and choked this bastard to death. Just what kind of hatred and resentment does he have against me? This guy must be her soul reaper after her rebirth. Wow, this is too juicy. Two men fighting over a woman. Not to mention, they're both so handsome. Although Si Xia has a different aura, his fresh and young vibe is irresistible. Yuanwan's too lucky with men, huh? Tisk, she's a vixen indeed. Totally shameless. Isn't she going a little overboard for seducing guys here and there? Shin Mingchi didn't expect that Si Xia's behavior would be more surprising than imagined and was satisfied. She continued to meddle with their relationship and said with disbelief, How could you do that? You obviously knew that Yuanwan already had a boyfriend, and yet you're still doing this. Is this how you were brought up, young Master Si? Chapter 211. Totally a daddy with a capital D for Si Han's sake. Shun Mingchi's face was filled with indignation at this injustice. She clearly put a lot of effort into her act. Si Xia raised his brows slightly when he heard that. My upbringing? TSK, I was brought up by Si Han. Si Xia was relaxed. With a smug look on his face, he even stole a glance at Si Han purposely before continuing. What about me? If Yuanwan asked me to take my pants off, I'd gladly take them off for her. You got a problem? Yuanwan, you think I'm that crazy to ask you to take off your pants? Have some integrity, bastard. Everyone was shocked by what they heard and rubbed their hands in anticipation of Si Han's response. He's been made a fool in front of everyone. Sounds like they're going to break up. Under countless stares, Si Han dealt with Si Xia's malicious provocation without a change in his expression at all. Si Han waited for him to finish provoking him, then looked at him plainly and asked, "You done?" He looked at Si Xia like he was looking at a problematic kid, causing Si Xia to burst into an outrage, a fiery rage burning in his eyes. Si Han saw that he didn't make any sound in response. His aloof gaze rained down torrents of oppression, and his tone was low and threatening. "What? You don't greet me when you see me?" Si Xia bore the weight of that oppression. It was as if his entire body was being pressed on by a huge mountain. His blood was almost freezing. Time passed very slowly. Even in such cold weather, beads of perspiration formed on his forehead. After some time had passed, the teenager finally gritted his teeth and said, enunciating every word clearly, "Ninth uncle." Ninth uncle? After they heard how Si Xia greeted Yi Wanwan's boyfriend, those waiting for a good show were dumbfounded. Shin Mingqi, who was secretly happy at first, was totally stunned as well. Nevertheless, this wasn't the end yet. Si Han's gaze swept across Yi Wanwan, and he continued, "What do you call her?" Si Xia clenched his fists tightly. His words seemed to be squeezed out through the gaps of his teeth. 90. Oh, Aunt. Damn. What's going on here? Hearing Si Xia calling her ninth aunt, the already confused crowd nearly went into seizures. What did Si Xia just call Yi Wanwan? Aunt? They never thought Si Xia had such a relationship with Yi Wanwan. So the reason why Si Xia was so nice towards Yi Wanwan from the start and was always protecting her was because she's his aunt? His uncle's girlfriend? Totally shocking. Yet the one who was in a greater shock was Yi Wanwan herself. Daddy's amazing. He's totally a daddy with a capital D. He actually managed to get Si Xia to call me aunt with just one look. He even got rid of all the rumors and misunderstandings circulating in school about her in an instant. It was only after Si Han heard the word, aunt, that he retracted his look of warning and turned to Sui. Sui had just gone through this hair-raising experience, and his legs almost gave way. Now, he stood there blankly, slowly regaining his senses. He quickly took out a men's coat from the bag in his hand and handed it to Si Xia. He stared at Si Xia's face. It was obvious that he was in a nasty mood, so he said carefully, "Young Master Si Xia, you've just recovered from your illness. Quickly put these clothes on. Don't catch a cold." Si Xia's face darkened, but he obligingly put on his own clothing. Then he took the coat from Sui and put it on just for show. "Catch a cold, my ass. My whole body's close to combusting." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.